All right, folks, it's time for another edition of the Online Dinner Party. And of course, it's right here on Pod TV, formerly IBM TV. And of course, we've got all kinds of things going on in the world right now. It's raining on the outside, or at least it was earlier here today, right? As I stepped outside earlier, it had actually stopped raining, but it's definitely a little bit on the wet side. And hopefully, this rain will get on out of here. We'll have some sunny days tomorrow and on Friday and all of that. So definitely folks can definitely enjoy the coolness. There's definitely a little bit on the cool side. There is no doubt about that. And of course, things are going on in the world. A lot of folks are paying attention to the vaccinations. I understand that there are now folks that can get it in an even younger age. So some of the kids have been given the go ahead to get the vaccination as well. And of course, folks are still wearing the mask and still doing the other things that we're supposed to be doing during these times and everything along those lines. So definitely those things are happening, and a lot of other things are happening in our society as well. So I'll be bringing up some news stories, might see if some guests are going to be showing up during the course of this particular show and everything. If not, I've got some pre-recorded interviews that I did earlier that I'll probably be bringing up if the guests don't show up and all of that. So definitely there's a lot of things that are happening in our world that people are paying attention to. And of course, a lot of folks are definitely paying attention to the facts that summer jobs are back, or at least they're sort of back, according to what LinkedIn is saying and all of that. So they're saying summer jobs are coming back, but not in every industry. While retailers and restaurants are hiring, many young workers who traditionally sought jobs in these sectors are applying to more competitive roles, such as paid internships. With many college students looking to gain experience in positions in their chosen fields, business owners are concerned they won't be able to fill necessary roles like cashiers and camp counselors. One restaurant owner told the Wall Street Journal he's ready to hire just about anybody who walks in the door. The April the April labor market doesn't help the situation, with only 266,000 jobs added to the economy compared to an anticipated 1 million. To lure workers, businesses have been offering sign-in bonuses and freebies to new employees, hoping they won't need to raise wages and that the labor market will pick up again by September. So there's folks that are hoping that the labor market will pick up by September and that things will get a lot better in that sense and all of that. But we'll have to see if that is actually the case or not the case and how this all works out in that regards. Because definitely a lot of folks are going to be paying attention to the summer job market and seeing what happens in that regard. So definitely folks are paying attention to the summer. And of course, that's just around the corner. We're already in the month of April, so May and June and July, and those other months are just around the corner and all that. Actually, we're in the month of May. So I think I said April, but it's actually the month of May. And like I said, definitely things are around the corner and all of that. I think I had April on my mind because of a past news story that I had seen and all of that. But definitely things are going on in that regards, and folks are definitely paying attention to what's happening in the job market and how that's impacting a number of industries and all of that. So definitely it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out and what happens in that regards. By the way, it looks like Biden is bringing back the job search rules. So it'll be interesting to see what this is all about. So let's see what this is all about and what they're saying on this. Responding to criticism of expanded unemployment benefits, President Joe Biden has said job search requirements suspended during the pandemic will be reinstated. So recipients will again need to show they're actively searching for work and will be told that doing turning down a suitable offer could cost them benefits. But Biden also rejected claims that benefits were keeping workers on the sideline, saying child care and school closures, as well as fears of contracting the virus, were to blame. And companies need to assist with vaccination efforts and to consider raising pay. Here are other questions answered about the search rules. At least 9 states have said they are rejecting expanded benefits. The Labor Department reports a record 8.2 million job openings in March, exceeding hires by 2 million. So definitely a young lady, Valerie Sutton, who's a leader in career theory and student services, says The shortage is much more complex issue than unemployment benefits, fear of COVID, and school closures. It is muddling of types of jobs and the skills needed to perform these positions. If you're going to apply to a job, you need to know there is career growth, which can mean wages, promotions, or learning opportunities. It is such a complex issue beyond the above listed reasons. What do you think? And they're asking what are some of the reasons that people might be not applying. And I actually might be wondering the same thing. So if you're listening and you're reading or hearing this show and you've got some theories as to why folks are not applying and all of that, I would love to hear your theories as well. So it's always interesting to hear what our audience here at Pod TV is thinking about all of that. So it'll be interesting to see what folks' reactions are and why they think people are not necessarily going for certain kinds of jobs and all of that. So definitely, if you've got some thoughts about that, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are and what your mindset is in that regard, because I know a lot of people are probably thinking about that even now as we're speaking and all of that. So definitely that's something that I know is on a lot of people's mind, and I'd be here curious to see what folks are thinking in their own regards. By the way, business leaders and policymakers alike need to rethink the low skilled job title, particularly after the pandemic revealed just how essential these jobs are, according to The Atlantic, which argues that the negative connotations of low skilled are perpetrated by our own biases of what is considered a good job. The phrase obscures the fact that many workers in jobs that don't pay well indeed may have skills. They could just be so young that they lack training and or experience. In addition, low skilled also devalues the work of many and justifies massive wage gaps between professions. So that's definitely an interesting thought of what they were saying in that regard. So definitely a lot of times people give folks not the dues that they need for the kind of job that they're having and all of that. So it ought to be interesting to see what folks have to say and all of that. So, as a matter of fact, facing an industry-wide labor shortage, fast food giant Chipotle is bumping up its average pay to $15 an hour by the end of June, resulting in wages of $11 to $18 an hour. It also plans to hire 20,000 more workers and offer hourly employees a 3.5-year general manager track. Chipotle joins a growing list of chains using benefits and pay to attract workers. The pandemic has decimated the food and dining jobs, and with restrictions now lifted, owners and managers are flailing to restaff, a result of low wages and poor working conditions, according to many in the industry. And by the way, I know that there's a Chipotle just around the corner from me, so I'm hoping that this will definitely be impacting those folks because I know quite a few of those folks that work over there, and they definitely do a great job and definitely deserve that kind of pay raise, in my opinion. So, like I said, I'm hoping that that will be the case where they are as well, since it seems to be a company-wide policy. So it looks like it should be something that would impact them as well. So definitely, I'm hoping that that's the case and that they will get the kind of support that they need in order to get that kind of raise. And who knows, maybe some of the other restaurants that are nearby as well will see that and even follow suit, because there are a number of restaurants not that far from where I'm at and all of that. And who knows, it might even impact some of those folks that are making the deliveries for them, people that are working for companies like DoorDash and Grubhub and things along that line. So definitely, we'll see if that's the case, and we'll see if that is actually what happens in that regard. Like I said, that is my hope, because I've actually been one that has said that it's a shame that we haven't had a minimum wage increase in a number of years, and I do mean a number of years, and that is a shame when we live in this country that prides itself so much on its economy and things along those lines. So definitely, I'm hoping that we'll see more and more of that going on. But I've got a great business leader that's about to join us in conversation. So I'm glad that I've got Seth in here. So I'm going to bring Seth McGuire into the conversation and see what they've got going on as well. How you doing, Seth? Glad to see you.
Good. Hi, Mark. How are you doing? Can you hear me okay?
I hear you perfectly well. How are you doing?
Very good. Thank you.
Good to hear it. I know that I've met you through the lovely sources that are able to find me some great guests like Potted and things along those lines. So I know that you're definitely somebody that's in that leadership community and everything. So I was just wondering if you could share a little bit about yourself. And first off, how are you doing? How is life treating you? I know that everybody's trying to get vaccinated and trying to get us out of this pandemic. So I hope that you are doing well. Hope that your family's doing well.
Yes, thank you so much. I hope you are as well. We haven't had one touch of COVID amongst us. I have a single mom and 15-year-old twins who are going to be 16 next week. So elite athletes. So that is, a whole job in itself. And they're
Yeah, that's definitely a job. Like I said, I don't have any of my own, but I do have my two nephews that are about to turn. Let's see, they were born in 2009 and 2010, so they're about to turn 12 and 13 in the
yeah.
month of August. So they're not that far behind your
No.
twins and everything. So definitely love going to see them. They just actually played their last game this year of soccer, and I think my mom told me that they might be getting ready to go into lacrosse or something like that. And in the past, they played flag football, so they definitely have some of that athletic ability as well. Do you have any idea what you're going to do with the twins for their birthday and all of that?
Excuse me. I'm up here in New York, and the allergies are fantastic. So I'm sorry if I end up coughing a little bit. Well, they have a meet on their birthday. So, but I originally thought it was going to be out of town because they do travel. And they are cross country and track runners year round. So, but they're not. So they actually got to be here for their birthday. So actually one of them is outside my door right now. So I'm not going to talk too much about that, but we'll try to take them out to dinner and they'll do something with their friends and, make it a little special, make some good dessert, something like that. So yeah, it's going to be, it's exciting. They're excited about driving and we've been practicing so that they are good drivers and which so far in the parking lot. And, but yeah, so yes, we have connected on Potted. I actually still have it open because I never got emails that were going back and forth. So sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
And,
That's perfectly fine and everything. I know that you definitely are considered like the Potted profile talks about your leadership and also your being somewhat of a thought leader and all of that. So I was just wondering if you could share a little bit about your own career trajectory. I guess that's the best way.
Well, it's very interesting to hear what you were talking about earlier, because I was in the restaurant industry. Well, I still am for 32 years. So I started in a kitchen cooking. And then when I turned, when I turned 18, I went out to waitress and then got bartending. And that was, through at college, so on and so forth. And then my family, we ended up buying a wine and liquor shop. And then I ended up working for one of the top companies here in New York for 11 years. And had a career there, and then I decided to resign to stay home with my kids because it's extremely important to raise them myself.
Right.
And so now I actually I live in Saratoga Springs, New York, where we have the NYRA, which is the racing Saratoga race course horses.
Yes.
And so that's all major part of our community. It's part of what built our community, besides the health and water here. And so I actually work there. That's part of, and I bartend there. So I'm still involved in that industry and talking about, it was interesting to hear you talking about the restaurants and people are doing for work and getting back to work. And I also, I have a couple jobs. That's my one job because I still have my hands in making cocktails and, that's about as far as I can do with 6 weeks. I can't do any more than that anymore. And I'm also a cosmetologist, but I also have written a book this past year and going to be doing leadership and collaborations and so on and so forth. So getting back to what you were saying, in the restaurant industry it is tough. And then here in New York with the unemployment and so on and so forth, but also as you were saying, the fear of people catching COVID. I'm not quite sure if that fear is still there anymore.
Right.
And it's just getting played out for the unemployment. So my cosmetology business has not come back. So that is, we're talking about other businesses, is one
Right.
people probably don't think of, right? Is so many people didn't even, I mean, I cut somebody's hair last week. It was the first haircut since COVID started.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and there's lots of people like that. So now that they're getting their COVID shot, they're feeling safer to come out into more places. Not so much work, but into more places. I know people who just went out to dinner for the first time, and it's surprising to me. And when you start to hear those stories, now you look at the restaurants and you go, okay, so how if that's just one person, now they're limited. I don't up here in New York, limited to 50%, right?
Yeah.
How do you even pay your bills? Because
Exactly.
the taxes here are astronomical, and insurances and so on and so forth. So it's this really weird catch-22, and and we're now just opening up. Track is going to be open at 100%, and last year we had nothing, and that's a major part of my income.
Right.
And I grew up in that, on the board at the Dutchess County Fair, so it's always been part of my life. And when you don't have it, it's such a major hit.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be a very major hit and everything. What is your thoughts about? Because I know I heard people talking about when the pandemic first came out, and of course, we're definitely getting more and more people that are getting vaccinated and all of that. But definitely, they were talking about that they were speculating that the restaurant industry could go, 60 to 70% of the businesses could go under. And like I said, I do know that I've got friends that and acquaintances that work for Chipotle, which apparently has got that raise going on and everything. But I don't know that enough corporations can do that. So they're in Saratoga. How are people handling the whole restaurant industry? And are you seeing a lot of restaurants close? Because I know even here in North Carolina, we are seeing some that are closing and some that were doing well before the pandemic.
Yeah, we didn't have many. We had 3. When I moved up here, which was, I have to think now, which was 13 years ago, Saratoga actually still shut down in the wintertime. So
Okay.
for 2-3 months, restaurants, there was like 3 open. They shut down. So analyzing that, right, and going, okay, so this town survived for how many years by shutting down in the wintertime, but still with tourism, and now it has become a 4-season town because we have Gore Mountain just an hour away. It has become, and New York City is coming up in droves, right, all the way up to Hudson Valley.
Yeah.
That it's now become this 4-season town. So when I looked at all this and analyzed it, and everything else going on, changing parking, changing our sidewalks are huge. We have 4 lanes in the middle of town. And I said, well, we used to shut down for 3 months, 2-3 months anyway. So, and there's not that many new restaurants. There is, but so we've only had, I think, 2 or 3 close. Some did again shut down during the wintertime. One because like one restaurant only has 6 seats inside, so there's no point for them to even be open. Another one was, and also in the restaurant industry, generally your employees are of younger age. Bye, honey.
Right.
Age, and so you have that partying. You have a lot shut down because somebody got COVID tested positive. So they would shut down for a couple weeks. It definitely not having track is a hurt because that's what gets them through the winter. But
Yeah.
you're a smart business person, right? Make sure you're saving your money. So, but so we're really excited here, and everybody lives as you're in your own little bubble.
Good.
right? And I don't know if people remember, well, what goes on right here doesn't go down on, I don't, where you are, or goes on
Right.
in Iowa, right? I mean, each area is different. And I think in the whole scheme of living and life, people forget that the rest of the country isn't like where you live. You know,
Yeah, I mean
place
that's
is
true.
different.
And even sometimes it can be vastly different, even in the same state that you're in. Like I said, I live here in North Carolina, and we oftentimes talk about the fact that in a lot of ways we feel like we're two states in one, and that's part of the reason that we're considered in the political front a swing state because
Yeah.
definitely the urban areas are probably a lot more liberal than say some of the areas that are surrounding it, like around the mountains and some of the other areas. So definitely depending on who comes out more, that depends on which way the state goes, and that's in our not just our federal elections, but also in the state elections as well. Because we've had back to back. I think the last three governors have been from the opposite party and everything. Because right now we've got a Democratic governor, and there was a Republican before him and a Democrat before that. So I know that we've gone back and forth, and you can even
Yeah.
see it in our Senate, because in our Senate representation, as I like to jokingly say, this is the state that gave you both Terry Sanford and Jesse Helms. So you couldn't get more opposites than that and
Right.
everything in terms of their viewpoints of life and
Right.
everything.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, that's, and from my own personal standpoint, going back to work and the jobs where, I mean, my right now is part time because it's not there. And so I'm focused on networking for my book and getting all of those things situated.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into the book and definitely some conversation about the book. The book sounds like a fascinating title, and I definitely want to learn about that. But before we get to that, I definitely, since you're in Saratoga, I was wondering if you had any thoughts, because we've talked about it just in the past with some friends of mine that have sports shows and sports programming about what's been going on between the Kentucky Derby and now getting ready for the Preakness with this whole kind of concept of what was going on with the drug testing. Because I was actually a big fan of the horse because it was a little horse and the little horse had won. And then it
Yeah.
turns out the little horse might have had some substances that were helping it win. But now they're saying it was an ointment that they have to take anyway, and that the ointment had the chemical, and but which doesn't seem fair to me that if it's the chemical in the ointment that's going to get you disqualified. But they're still doing some other things, and who knows whether that'll be what happens or not. But as one, it comes from the racing community. What's been the buzz around Saratoga?
Well, anytime anything like that comes out, it's disheartening. There's on a personal level, there's so much talk behind the scenes with horse racing that I that's negative. You have you have special interest groups that want it shut down. You have all of these conflicting, all of this, right? It's crazy. Just going back and forth. Lots of tension. I should say tension around all of it. Um, it is. It does. It just gets disheartening because it's one more thing. The horses end up unfortunately passing through during races, and you know, and the question is, and I don't want to, in case somebody sees this, I don't want them to think that I'm negative on any of it, and I'm not, because I absolutely love it. And I'm fortunate enough where my bar is, I can see them come by and they go out, and I can see them go on it's a great location. So, and I know a lot of trainers, and it's very personal to me. So on their aspect, that I don't like to hear it. Nobody wants to hear that, right? Nobody wants to hear that something could have been. I read Bob's comments on it, and he's besides himself of how this could even be, right? So if in fact it's in the ointment, well, that's like, that confuses me, though I'm not a doctor, but I know a lot, but it confuses me that I can take Advil, but still put on Voltaren or ibuprofen rub for my joints.
Right.
So, right. So would that be an over? So those are those little nuances, and you don't know if it's just somebody causing trouble, which is the article I read. That's what it sounded like. Who knows? And but on it's a to get into how wonderful the sport is, to see these horses. They're really, some of them are very funny. I remember seeing, I was driving down and there was this horse trailer and four of them had their heads out the window and one looked a little nervous, and looking at them, was one was saying, "Can't you smell it? We're in Saratoga. It's so exciting," and they just, the excitement you can feel off of them. And it just, to see all these people come together and they have such a great time. I mean, the energy behind all of it, and the commerce that comes from all of it, is just so wonderful. It is a beautiful sport on the horse level, as I am into health and I mean, I don't study it, but I know about it. Right. And genes. If in fact, I don't know, that these horses are having some special injections or whatever it is, all of those things, as it does in humans and it does in any animal, when you start putting these things into the body, now every time those cells regenerate, right, having a broken cell from when it was original, from when the horses were originally running. Just, you got a horse, you let them run. If they were fast, they were fast. The appreciation of that horse, right? So now, if in fact these things are going on, why can't we just get back to letting the horses be true and natural at their own ability? Such as our kids who are in high school, at their own ability. Right. And why does it have to extend into more intensity? I'm being, you can follow what I'm saying, because I don't want to,
No, I definitely agree with you, and I definitely think that's a wonderful thought and everything, because definitely I've always said, not so much Saratoga just because I knew about Saratoga, knew about some of the other racetracks, but ever since reading, and this may sound like an interesting book to have you want to go that way, but ever since reading as a teenager and a kid, Fear and Loathing at the Kentucky Derby, it's always been on my list of places to go attend one of those horse races, because it does seem like it's a great, both sporting event, but also a great society event, whether it's there in Saratoga, yes, or whether it's in Kentucky or wherever it is. But it seems like it's a true great event for people to attend and to have one of the better athletic parties, for lack of a better term. But definitely it's been on my list, and I haven't got to any of them yet. Haven't attended any horse races.
Oh, yeah, you have to go. I haven't been to the Kentucky, but I've been to Kentucky on a Maker's Mark tour, and so on and so forth. Maker's Mark bourbon, and working when I used to sell their brand. And I think a great place to, I mean, Saratoga's amazing. It's so beautiful. I think they get dressed up more often at Churchill Downs. I have a feeling, because it's in the heart, of horse industry. But Saratoga, and it's amazing in the morning when the sun is coming up, because there's so much history here. And Morrissey, who started it, he started the racetrack here because he originally started a casino.
Okay.
He was part of the Irish mob and came up. So we have the waters here, so the natural spring waters, all of your health. So everybody was coming up, so he started a casino, and that was very popular. But he also knew that if he didn't do something else, people are going to get bored, right? So he started the racetrack, and that was 150. I'm going to say 154 years maybe now ago. Oh. And so that's how that all got. I mean, so the history, and when you're there in the morning and you're watching the horses warm up, and there's still fog and it's rising and the sun, you can almost feel all of the history and all the people that had passed there. It's so magical. It's so beautiful. And I just love being, that's how I'm part of my community, is by being that.
And speaking of being part of your community, were you a native of Saratoga, or did you come there later in life and decide to raise your kids there? And in addition to the horse racing, what are some of the things that are appealing to you about Saratoga? I'm always fascinated by people from different areas of the country and what draws them to those areas.
hmm So I'm not a native. I've been here long enough now that I can probably. I'm a local. Been here for 13 years. I grew up in Rhinebeck, which is an hour and 45 minutes south, on the way to New York City. And this is, Ed was an integral part of building Rhinebeck. And this is like a very large version of it, because Saratoga is considered a city.
Mm-hmm.
So I moved up here. So I had married my husband and moved just outside of Albany, New York, and we worked together, and our office was right there. And where we lived, there was no community. It was, for me to get coffee, I had to drive to a strip mall, to Stewart's, to Starbucks. There was no community within, no central, just strip malls and highways. So had my kids, and I'm like, I have to move someplace where there's community. I can't be living like this. It's very isolating for me.
Mm-hmm.
Then we ended up coming up to Saratoga and built a house, because, again, very similar to Rhinebeck community. Schools are good. And if we didn't, my daughters would not be on the team. That's the number one cross country team in the country. So,
oh, wow.
Was definitely meant to be. And the community, there's so much. There's, even though we're even farther out of New York City, it's still very centrally located. To Buffalo, to Boston, to New York, any beaches, coastal Jersey. So that's wonderful. And I love history and old houses and all of that. So I'm very comfortable here with that. It makes me feel grounded amongst all of it. I think you could tell that by how I talk about the track. It's just makes me just feel just grounded. It's, for me, it's more of a conservative town. And we are upstate, so that is the case, more so upstate than it is in New York City. But the town is a little bit more conservative, and the school district we're very fortunate. My kids have great teachers. I cannot say enough about the teachers that they have had. And during all this, because they sit here 3 days a week, and they're in school Thursdays and Fridays, and to listen to the teachers and how they're teaching. I mean, sometimes they get me cracking up. It's so funny, but they're engaged and they make the kids laugh. And for how incredibly wacky this whole year has been, they're doing great. I mean, they have a 97 average and they are running every single day. So that is a great part of our
Sounds amazing. Like I said, I know I tried to run track when I was in the high school years back in the late 70s. We had, as I was telling a friend of mine, we had the best way of being on the track team. I was a horrible runner, and I acknowledge that I was a horrible runner. I was a great networker. Still, I'm a great networker now. So definitely, that's why I think the coach let me stay on the team. But what they used to do in Warren County in North Carolina was they would run you and run you and run you and run you some more, and then run you and run you and run you some more. And if you survived, you made the team. So that's how I made the team. So it's not that I was any good, but I knew I was bad. And then I finished, like I said, the Charlie Brown, oftentimes losing the race and all of that. But God was a survivor and still can be a survivor in that sense now.
So stuck in there.
Hung in there, and therefore you made the team.
That's right. And that's what kids need to have today. You have to stick it through. It's not instant gratification. I mean, when I was in high school, I was a big softball player, played in college, but I had gone out for the soccer team. And in softball, we're not running mileage, right? We're just doing our stuff out on the field. And now run mileage out on the road for soccer. And I was like, oh, you have to be kidding me. And I would be the last one to come in. Mm-hmm. So by the time the season was done, I ended up being the first one who would come in.
Right. You have that.
You have to,
you have to have that determination. You have to have that determination.
We have to teach them instant gratification is worth nothing.
Yep.
Worth nothing.
Well, a friend of mine actually talks about that because he was actually, we were having a conversation around kids of today, and definitely we're seeing some great things, even some of the ways that they're having positive attitudes about social issues and a lot of other things. But one of the things that he was not a big fan of, and he's got kids that also, I think one of his kids does play softball, but he's talking about it, he's not a big fan necessarily of the participation ribbons where you just give people a participation ribbon just for participating and all of that. So definitely, I think that's sometimes where folks are not the biggest fans just because, you happen to run that you get a trophy. Like I said, I don't know that I would have won a trophy, even though, like I said, I knew I was finishing in the back of the pack and all of that. So that might have even been a disincentive in my opinion. But I was just wondering, what are your thoughts? Because definitely as a parent, do you think that they should just be rewarded for being involved?
No. No, I don't. It's I believe that just creates mediocrity. Oh, I don't try that hard, and not even it's for nobody else, but for yourself. Right. Creating that self-fulfillment and having your kids working hard. You want to win? Well, this is what you got to do. Yes, you're a winner in the fact that you're here and you're doing great, but no, I am not. I don't want one of my children is out right now in an injury, and it is beyond what you can even imagine in the stress load on top of COVID, okay, on top of all of this, right? Kids aren't in school, going insane. And my kids are I'm so lucky, they're phenomenal. But if I raised her that way, that right now she would be whining and crying instead of going, I have to do what I have to do to get back.
Yeah.
And to prove my coaches wrong, because of course they're annoyed with her because she's like, I'm done with spring. I will in the summertime. And she is determined to go do it all herself. And if you just handed her, she came in 10th out of 15 kids, that you're not creating that drive. And it's not only for sports. That's the point. Right. That's the point on all of this. That ribbon, first, second, third, gold, bronze, silver, whatever you want to call it, is about creating a mindset for the rest of your life when you're taking care of your family, when you're going to work, that you want a promotion, or not even that, just doing the job that you're doing well and having the self-fulfillment of it. So if every kid's walking around with, oh, I got a ribbon for that, yay, then they hand in a report that wasn't good for work, didn't give all of the analytics that were necessary for them to move on. Where's that?
Yep.
It's a trickle down. It's a trickle down effect.
Yep, definitely. I can see that. I've got one of the guests I want to bring in very shortly, but before we get to him, I wanted to know about what's next. And definitely it sounds to me like you definitely have a very positive attitude with your daughters as well as just life in general. So it seems like that's part of what the book is about, this ebook called What's Next? Become the Superpower of Your Life. So I'd love for you to share about what that's all about and what are some of the life lessons that you have learned from writing that book.
Well, it was, I actually came up with doing all of this and moving into this department because I really don't like working for people. I really don't I want to be able to for what's next in my life is to be able to answer to myself for my job.
Yeah.
So, actually what happened is last year, February 14th, I closed on this house. Because what else is a single girl supposed to do on Valentine's Day besides close on their house? So did that, got it all ready. And on day 12 of the initial shutdown, I got laid off from my wine job. I was working for a wine distributor, small one, and I got laid off. I was like, great, this is fantastic. And I shifted and I said, actually, this is fantastic. I can move into my house. I don't have to be stressed of going to work and all of this stuff. Wonderful. And I was for sure this was all going to be over by summertime. It's like, okay, I'll be back at the track. We'll get back in normal. Everything will be good. And as it went on, I'm like, okay, so that's not happening. And one day I was sitting outside and I just said, I know I'm not the only person in the world that's like me or thinks like me or is dealing with the same situation that I am, right? So I turned 50 in December, and what happens when you get to this point, right? You're like, whatever, the whole rest of the world can just go to pot. I got to do what I got to do. And you shift. Like the day after I turned 50, there was this shift. I didn't care anymore what people really thought. Not that I ever really did, but you know, those things play in your mind. So I said, you know what? I think I need to write a book that guides people into what's next, whether you were a stay-at-home mom like myself. I had no money in my checking account when we divorced. My ex ruined my credit. Father died 2 weeks after we moved out of our house, and my kids and I completely crushed. So then you're like, okay, what's next? So whether no matter what situation you're moving through, there's always a what's next. And many people right now during this could be looking at COVID and going, you know what, this is allowing, I'm unsettled. I don't want this anymore. I've wanted to work for myself or open a coffee shop or whatever it is.
Right.
What I created was how to identify how social pressures, the breakdown of our moral compass, and toxicity hold you back from doing that. And this year, certainly, there was plenty of all of that. But
it's
to be
definitely.
able
And speaking
to,
of toxicity holding you back and everything, I know that I mean, not that far. I'm actually on the opposite side. We'll hit the big 6 number next year. So not this July, but next July and everything. But sometimes people have this attitude that their social life has to be over once they hit a certain age or once the divorce happens or things of that nature. And I know sometimes even the churches and social organizations discourage divorce and things along those lines. So, but it sounds to me like you have a very vibrant attitude and a very positive attitude. So definitely, doesn't sound like you're letting any grass grow under your feet. I'm thinking not even on the social side, and definitely not on the business side as well. So, what is your reaction to folks when they are automatically ready to, have everybody, whether it's through widowship or through divorce, ready to call off their life based on the fact of whatever happened, whether that's a loss of somebody due to death or whether it's the loss of somebody due to divorce. But sometimes I think that we write folks off too quickly, and we also don't give them that opportunity. Because I know sometimes I've got single friends that are single mothers, some that have teenage kids, some that have adult kids, and sometimes they are. As a matter of fact, one friend is concentrating on starting their own nonprofit right now because they just got out of a long-term relationship and now they're ready to concentrate on creating their business and everything that they're doing to help kids with autism and other disabilities and things along those lines. So, what is your thoughts about when folks in society want to not understand what single women are going through, particularly single moms?
well, it's extremely hard. It's very, very hard because one is, and I am not afraid to say gender roles. There are
Mhm.
roles, and my most favorite thing in the world is being a mom. It's my most favorite thing, and it is. I am happy to do that. And when you're a single mom and you're here for a reason, which is either abuse, lack of support, whatever it is, right? In this instance, it's so hard because you're a nurturer. So now, women are nurturers, men are the providers. So the mindset, the emotional level, all of it is totally different. So as a single mom, my biggest priority is my children
Right.
and all the emotions that come with it, dealing with their stuff, keeping them on track. For me, all of their food prep because they're high athletes, and navigating what goes on with their sports, what goes on with their father, and that stuff that comes back into my space, and then financials.
Right.
So in New York now, a single mom, I mean, your alimony is based on how many years you've been married. It's
Yeah.
not get it until you marry again. It's so when that balance is extremely hard, and then throw in taking care of your home, taking care of all these things as a man, because we are different, that end of it is far easier, right? Because you're a provider, you're doing this, I have to go do this. And it's extremely hard being a single mom. I wouldn't trade it for anything, but and I wouldn't trade anything that I'm doing now.
Yeah.
It's a struggle because at the end of the day, I'm also a great role model to my kids, right?
Yeah, definitely. I can see that.
Book,
I know that
keep
I know that
going.
sometimes when I talk to other single moms, they sometimes get frustrated because sometimes if they won't opt to, and it's a really an opt-in question, but if they opt to get back into the dating life situation, they sometimes feel that people are either one not understanding that they do have those kids and that the kids need to be included in the relationship, but then sometimes they also don't want to do it too fast because I definitely know that a lot of
Yeah.
times some of my friends are like, if they are in those social dating situations, whether that's going to a bar or going to a movie with somebody, they want to make sure that that person is going to be in their life for a while before they bring them into the kids' life because they don't want the kids to feel abandoned no matter what
Well,
age the kids are.
and that's being a very good parent. I mean, that's being a very good parent. The dating scene is ridiculous. So, I mean, for me, I had a boyfriend after I divorced, and he passed away as well. So, um, 2 years ago, and my kids had no idea, and he had kids, and it worked wonderfully. That it was amazing, and I loved him dearly. And now on the dating scene, it is, oh God, it is torture. So going on a couple sites, I mean, all it is I have not met one man that is just wants to get to know, work it slow. I don't need another father for my kids. I don't need anybody moving in. It is, and after losing somebody, now the mundane doesn't even work. There's no time for any of it.
Right.
It's, are you going to take care of me? And if you are, I'm willing to take care of you and go through it all again, because my boyfriend died of cancer,
Right.
and go through it all again. But if you're not worth my time. It's not worth time and the energy and the anguish and it just is whatever. I am social. I go out to dinner by myself. I don't have a problem with that at all. I see my friends, but I cook, and I'm I'm happier in my kitchen with a bottle of wine and some jazz on and cooking dinner. And, you know, I know someday somebody will come along.
Yeah, that makes
right now, for single moms, and it's hard if your kids aren't out of the house, it is hard to do a job to own a business, to be an entrepreneur by yourself. It's hard because you don't have your time. Yeah. So I keep reminding myself of that, especially now because my kids are at home, and I'm grateful, and I still want to embrace that time, right? But I also have to get out of their space because then I end up listening and I'm not focused on what I have to do. But it is the majority of successful high-end women did not get there until after their 50s.
Yep, that's true. A lot of them did not get there until after their 50s.
Speaking of which, kids went off to college.
Yep. Speaking of which, I was going to bring a gentleman in that has done a lot of work in his own field and everything. So, Teddy, share a little bit about your story and everything. I know that you're definitely involved in the acting community and all of that. So, I'm sure that folks would love to hear about your story as well. So, share what you've got going on. Because, like I said, when I connected with you, I believe it was off of LinkedIn, I was quite amazed by some of the things that you were doing as well. So, definitely share a little bit about what you've got going on in your life. And like I said, we've got this amazing Seth that's on that is a true entrepreneur.
Absolutely. First, I want to say I grew up in a single mom home, so I feel you. It was 3 kids, my mom, and my dad he eloped with some other lady, somebody he was working with. So I feel you. He left her. He filed for bankruptcy. He did a lot of stuff before he left. It was just ugly. So I feel you. And let me tell you something, a good mom like you are, I still talk to her today. She's here. All the time you put into the kids is just, it's priceless. It's really priceless. I'm getting all teared up. It's really priceless. I love my mother and they love you, and it's a great investment. And I thought about the boyfriends, she would see, and I was little, and I think back like, man, that didn't work out. This guy didn't work out, Charles, and the van. But I love this van. And I was like, he had a van, and it had seats and everything in the back, and it was comfortable. And I think it didn't work out because of us. It was 3 of us, and we run around, and he's like, So you sacrifice, and what you do is a wonderful thing. And I just love my mother and my younger brother and my older sister. And so keep doing this, Seth, and it's worth it. It's so worth it. I was just so caught up in it. I was like, and they see those things. They see everything you do, and it invests in them. And my mother worked at the post office, retired from that. And I was just invest in their life. And I was the middle child, so I was kind of kooky. I didn't get attention because I was little, and I didn't get attention because I was the oldest. So I was like, "Oh, Mom, look what I can do! And I'm better than the other kids. Look what I can do!" And she's like, "Just calm down, Teddy." So it does encourage their strong points. And even my sister said, "Teddy, you're getting paid to do the things you did when we were kids. It just being goofy." And I was like, "You're right. I never thought about that. I enjoy it." And you find something you enjoy by your mom being your dad, being your mother, and everything. She's creative, she's supportive, she's a disciplinary, she's so good for you. That's beautiful. And I love that name for a girl. I was like, thanks, Seth.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I get that question.
A lot, you guys.
That is a great name, but definitely Ted, I want folks to learn more about what you've got going on and everything along those lines. But definitely, I was going to say that, moms are real powerful. I know that I still depend. Like I said, I'll hit 60 next year, but my mom will turn 80 in May and everything, and she's still one of my biggest fans and still somebody that I follow. And I'm not going to lie, I think that when you are, whether you're 7 or 90, and I just use those ages, that you still depend on your mom and everything. I know that I've hit some times that things were financially hard or whatever, and it's usually mom that you go to first in order to say what's going on. Usually, mom is usually, matter of fact, I think mom told me one time, she was like, I don't even know why you're bothering to ask as if you think that the answer is going to be no. You know the answer is going to be yes, so it's just a matter of how we're going to have it done, whether it's going to be money sent to your bank account or whether it's going to be done through PayPal or Cash App or whatever, but it's going to be done, so you just understand that.
Yep. You said it. I remember being at Arizona State, and she would send me money, and then, even now I reverse it. I say, send her money. I put my mature account number. I put it in there. When God bless me with something nice, I'm like, because she's like, thank you. This, Mom, are you kidding? You don't even say thank you. All the time Oh man, I remember her bailing me out of jail. Let's just be real. Be honest, I've been through a lot of stupid stuff, and the look on her face, the second time was enough. I'm done. I'm like, I'm going back home. I said, I'm not gonna. I said, I'm just. So the stuff you invest in them, Seth, and it really gets in there. Even if we go off and do stupid things and go to LA and don't call and be worried about you and go to jail twice and never get convicted. That's the proof. That's a good point. And with your stupid hanging out with the wrong friends, and she'll come and she's always there. And she look on her face, and my girlfriend at that time's face was like, "I'm not doing it. I'm gonna go home." And the seed that they planted in your grandmothers and your mother and your back, it gets in there. It's like, "Man, this is wrong. I shouldn't be doing this." But I'm from Oakland, California. I am in Los Angeles now. I talk a lot. Let's see. I grew up there, and I used to go to school in Berkeley, like St. Mary's High School, and I love hanging out in Berkeley and by the lake. And I don't know, man. I just that middle kid thing. Just kind of, you always want to do stuff, and it just makes you want to you always want to entertain people. You want to entertain them, and not like you're trying to. You just want to have fun, because life is short, and you got to find what God bless you with and use it. Use it to make people's lives a little funnier and laugh and entertained, I guess. And even my wife gets tired of me. But you knew what you were married when you got into this.
You knew what you were getting into with all of that. One of the things that we oftentimes hear about is folks are always thinking about entertainers and athletes. And of course, sometimes we think that that's the easy way out. But I know from having friends that are in that field, including some friends that are comedians and actors and actresses out of the LA area and even the New York area, that it's not always as easy as people think it is, and it's a definite strong struggle. And the lucky few are able to make those big bucks, but that's the very lucky few and all of that. So definitely, if you could share with our audience a little bit about that struggle, because I do think that sometimes people think that it's a easy cake just because you've got the skill and all of that, and we know that it's not that easy.
Mark, you said it. I have friends on Facebook that I got together with. I graduated in '85, and so I'm 53. And they think, your family too, they think, oh, you got lives going on, you're doing this and that. And I'm thinking, are you kidding? It is so. I tell people, if they want to do this, it's really, you really want to make a decision, you want to do it, and just enjoy it. Because when you have fun in something, whether you're cooking or cleaning this or filming it and put it on YouTube, people have fun watching it. So if I enjoy myself, it'll be better. But I'm gonna tell you, the first 6 years in LA, man, it was hard, man. I had a motorcycle, no car, and I was riding in the rain. I'll never forget this. And I was like riding and trying to just get it, just some time within that castle director. And I was like doing different things and going to auditions, and I remember being so frustrated and crying in my helmet, my motorcycle helmet. Man, my God, you said you're gonna do this, and I'm doing this, and you're not singing, you're not keeping your part. And you said you're gonna help me, and man, the first 6-7 years were so rough. And you just, I don't know, man. You just keep plugging. I do a lot of praying, and you think just because you're at home and you're a big fish and things are gonna be cool, you're gonna go to LA and they're gonna love me. And no, dude, they're not gonna love. They don't even know who you are. So, and that's okay. Just you'll find the casting people. I send things out. I always do. I do that now on LinkedIn. I'll find some movie or some cast record I like. I'll send things to them. And I didn't have anything then, but now I'm blessed, and God, He opens doors to these people you're supposed to be with, and the opportunities that are yours. That's what I tell myself. When you don't, let me tell you something. Every role I get or I'm blessed with, there's a bunch of them that you cry on a blanket at the park for that you didn't get. You'll be like, what? And they'll have you come in 2 or 3 times, and oh, that was good, that was great. And for the ones that I am blessed with, I never saw them coming. I left there going, it's another read. Oh, second time's another read. You're like, wow, I got it? What happened? What did I do? They don't give you no sign. They be in there. And in the old days, it was like a 15, 20 people at your second read. Now it's more, a lot of self-tape with the ring light, and you set your thing up, and which is cool too. But they have the poker face. It's the poker face. Like, thank you. That was good, Teddy. Thank you. You're like, huh. Then you get on the elevator. This is what I ask myself though. I always positively visualize stuff. In high school, they taught us how to positively visualize. When I play football, close your eyes and you breathe and you see yourself doing what you want to do, where you want to be on the way there, talking to the receptionist or talking to people, and you be positive no matter what they are. Because in the room, they'll be dead like this. But in your mind, it's okay. If your mind is strong, you're positive, you're being cool no matter how negative they are, or how they're not laughing at your joke. They're just like, dude, get out of here. But you'll get those roles. So I like to positive visualize stuff. I like to practice, 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 pray, persist. Those 3 P's: practice, pray, and persist. You're not gonna get a lot of roles. And I told myself, Ted, you're not gonna get a lot of things, but I'll never let it be because I wasn't good enough. I'm gonna do so much homework and then forget acting. This is a book. Sorry guys, there's a book that I studied from day one. It's all beat up. And I remember studying, driving across the bridge to San Francisco on my motorcycle. I was so scared because it was windy and I was on the bike going like this and going like that. And I was like, Lord, get me over there to this stupid class, man. Every once a week on Wednesday. But that book is essential. It taught you how to don't act. I try not to act. Try to be yourself in everything. If you just be simple. And they say action don't mean you have to start doing something. Be real. Don't ever act. People don't want to see acting. They want to see you be real. Whether it's a comedy or a drama, they want you to see real. They don't want to have to sit there going, I don't believe them. That's the last thing you want. Movies that touch us, comedy, drama, suspense, you believe the character. You're like, wow, you're so enthralled. You're angry at him. You're like, oh, if I see that guy, or that girl, she made me so mad. But you believe. That's the thing. So I'll tell you this, I was telling myself so much homework. So you don't get the role, which is a lot. You're like, well, I did. This is what I think. You're not reading to get to the part. You're reading to get in their heart because they're always working on something else. They're always working on, oh man, Steph, Mark can be right for this. He's not right for this, but I'm gonna keep it because you make them look good in front of their bosses. Casper calls you in there like, hey, Mark is cool. He's nice to be around. She's nice to be around. I can see being around in 12 and 16 hours and not going to be a pain. They're not going to be ego and I need this and that. No, sit me over there. I'll go in my little trailer. I'll pray. I'm happy to be here. What do you need me to do? So, but it's hard, man. I'm telling you, the first 6-7 years, did a lot of crying. I still do that now. But the helmet would fog up and I was like, just losing it. I was like, and then you know what's funny? Like in life, it's always darkness before dawn. Right before you're about to get some big blessing, is it crazy hard? You'd be like, I'm done tomorrow. If this don't work out, I'm just gonna drive off the cliff and stay on my motorcycle. I'm just gonna and then something will break through and you're like, how come this couldn't happen? Why I gotta be in tears? Why I gotta break down? Why you gotta break my spirit? But thank you so much. Keep them coming, so. But it's hard.
He keeps them coming. There's no doubt about that. And you actually brought up something I'd like to hear from both of you about that. But you brought up something that I think is true to both the entrepreneurial journey as well as the journey of the actor and everything, which is the fact that you've got to be persistent. And I think that that's something that even Seth can relate to as well. Is that whole concept of persistence, and also whether you want to call it Christianity or whether you want to call it some other kind of denomination or even some sort of religion. I think you've got to have some sort of faith or some sort of spiritual connection to something that is beyond you and everything. So it seems to me that whenever I've talked to folks that are successful, even folks that some people may say are non-believers, they believe in something that is greater than themselves, and whether it's a family member, whether it's something, but they definitely believe in something that is better or bigger than themselves and everything. I would even argue that probably the biggest atheists and the biggest agnostics have some belief system of some sort or another. It may not be what we think of it as being a belief, and definitely people of different religions and everything. So, Seth, I'd love to hear your thoughts about persistence, because I know one of the things you talk about is being a woman entrepreneur and getting into this whole women entrepreneur space. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about persistence and also how important faith and spirituality is in your own journey. And then I'll get to Jenny as well.
For the persistence, there's no other option. Okay, you just can't fail. I mean, because I don't want to be homeless. I don't want to, not that I ever would be, but my mom's still alive, so and so, but I don't want to be there, right? So, but it's not for anybody else but for myself, right? So it's the constant going. I mean, if I have to go find a job that doesn't work within my life here with my kids, I'll have to do it. Right. But so it's just the matter of, again, so there you come back to, Mark, is, are you given the award for just showing up? Or is it only for, right? You're not. It's, you just keep on going towards that finish line and finish first for yourself.
Yeah.
So yes, and it's so interesting that we started talking about faith, because I say this, people, God, they don't believe whatever it is. To me, when the term God is whatever your higher power, whatever it is you believe, it doesn't have to be God from the Bible. It's just a general term, as in when you're writing and you say he, and it means he, she, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't get hung up on all this stuff.
Yeah.
So whoever your God is, doesn't matter if it's the Bible, doesn't matter if it's your ancestors, doesn't matter if it's animals, Indians, whatever.
Yeah.
Something is keeping you driving towards where you need to go.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, you have no purpose. There's no purpose for your life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the point of even being here if you're not working towards something in your life?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the three of us sitting here. There's a whole bunch in our society who don't believe that at all. But it's also, right? It's what, for me, my ancestors, have their furniture right around me right now, and all of their soul, every aspect of their life. My great grandparents, I knew them. My great aunts, my great great aunts, all of that becomes part of your life, and it's all part of yourselves, and that's what works for me. And I sit here and I'm going, could you please? Can you please help me out here, right? Or I cry, I lost my dad, and I cry and go, I need your help here. And same with my daughters. I'm like, you get out there and you just ask him for help. Just, and it's to each their own.
Yeah.
No, I definitely agree. I love to hear what Terry's got to say about this as well. But I definitely am a big believer in the connection to our ancestors. I know that I still have communications with my grandmother, who was a librarian and actually started one of the libraries in Raleigh. And I definitely still have communications with other ancestors as well, including her husband. It was the biology building at North Carolina Central is named after him. And then my grandfather on my mom's side, who was involved in farmland in North Carolina, and he was actually a deacon in his church, but also very much a community leader. And actually, we oftentimes, and we were talking about this earlier, Seth, we don't think about the community leaders that are doing leadership in what some people might consider a job that wouldn't be necessarily what we think of as leaders. Because and a lot of times we think about the policemen, we think about the firemen, we definitely think about the school teachers. But my grandmother on my mom's side was a cafeteria worker. She was a cafeteria worker in the school, and that's somebody that's very important in terms of both feeding our kids and in terms of also just giving them advice and sharing life with them. Because I know she would talk to students on a regular basis, and probably did, in some cases, maybe did some more education than some of the teachers did in terms of giving them some life lessons and things of that nature. And then she was a community leader as well. And even sometimes folks will go on, because I know there are a lot of people here in the community of Durham that have passed on in the last several years, none that I'm aware of that were necessarily COVID related, but they were getting up in age, but they were community leaders. So I think about people like Baba Chuck Davis, who founded the African American Dance Ensemble, and Skippy Scarborough, who was a local historian here in the area and could tell you about how folks used to be dressed going to school in their sharp outfits, because back then folks would have to wear what amounted to outfits and everything of that nature. So he would share a lot of those kind of stories. Or Ray Earhart, who was a community leader, and those are just a few that have passed on. There are a number of others that I could think about as well if I wanted to name them all, but definitely there are those kind of folks that are added to your ancestral pool, because you will always reflect on them. You'll think about them even until you get that chance to go across that divide and see them on, as they say, the other side. But you have to live your life here while you're here, but you can share those memories and thoughts about the folks that have passed on in the past and everything. But Teddy, what is your thoughts?
I'm right there with you guys. It's so wild that I spoke about God. There's a show I'm watching called Surviving Death, and I'm watching it. It's so nice. And I see people, they talk to and everybody's when I was to believe when people say the same thing about something, they don't even know each other. Chances are a lot of that's true, whether it's good or bad about someone on earth or them dying for a couple of minutes and coming back. They always, one of the similarities, they were saying how their ancestors come and take them, and they first they look and see that there's their body, and they're like, wow, that's me. But their ancestors from the past come and escort them, and for some, and it's beautiful. And I talked to my, we were close. I love Eva. She used to feed me, and I talk to her now. And sometimes, like you said, I'm like, Grandma, could you go to God and ask Him to kind of help me? And, since you up there, you guys are tight. And my cousin Tate, could you guys go to God and just kind of like say, open some doors, you know what I'm saying, or something. So I do like talk to your grandmother, like you said, Mark. And I was going, we are so in tune to. I just believe such a big space and energy and all these different planets. I cannot believe this is it. I cannot. Our souls are the most important thing. I can't believe that's it. I think we're on different links and different planes, but I do try to talk to my ancestors and people that I think are strong. And I'm like, even my father, there's a time I sat him in a chair and what happened to you anyway? But it's such a trip. But I know persistence is a key. And what happens to make you believe in yourself? I think little things will come along to give me strength. I'll tell you this: if God didn't bless me with a role here and there early on, I don't know if I'd still be in LA. But I'm glad I met my wife, and we're both from the Bay Area, but we met out here. So I think it's weird. So there's reasons for everything, and I think when you're having fun and doing things, when I was looking for a girl or wife, couldn't find nobody. Everybody I found was this and that. When you're not and you're concentrating on helping people or doing things or concentrating on your goals and stuff, He brings people. Somebody will come and somebody's watching you. I told my wife that there's always a man watching you, always somebody watching you and admired by you and by your ways in which you're dealing with your kids and dealing with and I'm telling you, he's looking for that person too. I always believe he was getting her ready and getting me ready. And that's what I think with that major elusive breakout role, he's getting me ready and getting that ready. And the person that people in your area that he needs in place to help you towards your goals, I think so. But it's persistence and practicing and sometimes getting on the thing and doing stuff for yourself for fun. Do things for fun, because then you see that things and it inspires you, and you see other people, and I don't know, you find out your talents, but being persistent is the key. I don't know how or why. I've never been good at quitting. I've never been a good quitter, and I'm like, I always think, man, how could I have done that better? I think that comes from sports. I play football. You're not going to win every game. You're not going to win everything, but okay, how can you do better next time? Okay, let me do this. I'm going to do this play. I'm going to do that. And it comes from playing Madden and video games and being persistent. And I tell my son, there's always a way to solve a problem. You can be beat, but don't think this boss you're beating in this game is invincible. But this problem you have is invincible. There's always a way to do this. And sometimes you got to do it 15 times, get beat up, leave, and go, man. Go to work. Man, I work graveyard. As a security guard. I'm just thinking about this video game. And then I'll come back 25 times later, and I'm like, the 26th time, I passed. I'm going, wow. So I'm not good at quitting. I'm like, I'll go on YouTube. I always go to YouTube. How did they beat this dude? God, this girl is crazy. Then you finally do it. I go to YouTube to learn how to beat somebody on a video game, and then I learn how to make the best gumbo. The extremes. And then it'd be some good gumbo. And I said, I went on YouTube. I'll call my mom. I went to YouTube. I made the best, what I make strip egg foo young. It was because I can't get any. We got it in Phoenix when I lived up there, and I was going, I gotta make it myself. I'm doing it myself. I'm gonna go in there and watch about 5 cooks, take a little bit of each one, and just, that's how you do it. YouTube is my professors. YouTube is a trip. YouTube is funny, but
YouTube is a professor for a lot of folks and everybody.
Wild.
I can definitely agree with that and everything. What were some of the things that you think were the biggest lessons you learned when you played football? And did you play at the college level, or did you play even at the professional level? And what were some of the bigger lessons that you feel you learned from your athletic career?
I think what I was saying, I would say again, is that we learn how to track too. You learn any kind of sports. I think I tell my son anything. You learn that you're going to win every game. You learn how to practice. You learn I learned from that school how to positively visualize things. Even playing football. What's funny is I would positively visualize things, and then the next day what happened in practice. But then when I thought about that before. Okay, they're throwing the pass. It's in the air. Football's in the air. It's coming down. Oh, what if I drop it? And then what do? I drop it. I'm like, And then so I started doing that class. I was like, wait a minute. I'm going to catch the ball. I'm going to do these different moves. And then when it first worked, the next day I was sitting there going, wow. Because our brains are really strong. And if we see, whatever we see and concentrate on, it's going to happen. They took these 3 volleyball teams for a month. They let one practice, and one they let sit down, and one they let practice, in their minds. The ones that didn't practice, their talent went down. The ones that did practice here and the ones that really practiced, it was a 1% difference in their skills. So it's like your brain is strong. If you see things positive, I tell you, positively visualize the sun. Do the homework. Don't just sit there and positively sit back. Do your stuff, and just positively visualize the outcome and how you're going to have fun. And it's attractive. It engages people. People want to be around you. It's I don't know, man. Our brains are really strong, and when you tap into
the
that,
energy.
exactly.
Yeah, it's funny that you say this, because this is really funny. Because my daughter, I'm like, listen, because running is so intense. I mean, they're sore all that. I mean, it's insane. Mark, you can appreciate your keep on going. But I said, you have to visualize not being pain. You have to visualize this all gone. So my one daughter goes, she's in a meet, and she goes, well, I visualized myself, whatever it was, and it didn't happen. I said, but imagine if you didn't visualize and what could have happened. You could have broken something. You could have ripped something. Something could have just. She goes, oh, that's true.
You got in there. You got in there. I'm telling you. Yep, that's true. And she's gonna keep doing it more and more. She's gonna see some outcomes. She's gonna sit there and go, wow, mommy was right. I can do this. I'm telling you, your head, your brain.
I'm gonna get the T-shirt. Mom was right.
Mom was right. The T-shirt is going to get that one.
Mom was right. That's a good idea. That's a great idea. Yeah. Trademark pending. What is it? Patent pending. You should do that.
Oh my God! Right. I could have a T-shirt company. I could. Yeah. I've got that.
And then you do it. If you do it, do it on the front and the back, so people that go away go, yeah, Mom was right. They just put ... Mom was right about everything.
Right.
Doesn't matter what the question was. Mom was right. So doesn't matter what the question was. Mom was right.
I remember this time. Every time she would say something, she would pre-say something. She would say something like, "Okay, don't take all your money with it. You're going to lose it." And I would say, "Mom, just don't say it. Don't, because you putting an X on me. you putting the mojo on me. Stop putting the much." No, I'm not just saying, sweetie. No, every time you say something, it comes true. And I was like, man, I'm taking my money with me. She don't know what she's talking about. I come back crying. Mama, I lost my money. She was right. She's like, sweetie, I told you. And I was like, from then on, I was like, you know what? I'm going to listen to her or that voice inside of you that says the first voice that said, hey, do this, and you go against it. I'm like, oh man, I told myself to pick my keys up, and I didn't do it. And so next time I'm gonna listen to the first one. I'm gonna go to the second one. I'm gonna go back to the first one. That's your guidance. That's your Holy Spirit.
That feeling right here, right?
But
don't you feel
to both of you, don't you feel that we don't do that enough of? Because I know that even one of the companies I work for is a testing company. They grade the end of the year tests and everything, and we have to get tested ourselves just to make sure that we are following the correct rules, the correct rubric, and all of that. And I know that several times I have taken tests, and some of the tests I have maybe not done that well on and everything. And I've gone back and looked over the answers, and usually it was the answer that I wanted to put down first was the correct answer, but I talked myself out of it. So
exactly
entrepreneurship, and I wanted to bring this to Seth and everything. I think that even in entrepreneurship, we talk ourselves out of things. I think I talk about a lot of my entrepreneur friends, including myself, that we fall into the dream stealers and the people that are the defeatists and all of that, and we let them get into our heads. And therefore, we don't go into what we're supposed to be doing. As I like to say it, and I've said this on this show a couple of times, we fire ourselves before we even had a chance to be fired. So if you use the job analogy, we fire ourselves before we've even had the chance to go for the job. So I'm like, most of the time, if you go to a job, you go to the job, you get hired, you do the job well. At some point or another, you may have a conflict with the boss, you get fired. That's the usual track of what goes on in the world. But we fire ourselves before we even got hired. So that's just kind of defeating the total purpose. But Seth, have you seen that even in your own career and entrepreneurs that you talk to, that sometimes they are so busy defeating themselves that they don't even let the dream go forward?
it happened to me today. I'm like, am I doing the right thing? What am I doing? And I don't know if it's because I drank too much coffee and then I had, some other thing with caffeine in it. And I was just like, what am I doing? Or my kid, I just was like, is it? And it's ridiculous because I had this afternoon. I had a talk with somebody beforehand. People are responding to things I'm doing, and I'm going, am I doing the right thing? You're just like, all right, knock it off. Just knock it off. Yeah. But this does not like change. Because for me, it's like, oh my God, you're going to get busier. How are you going to get busier than you already are, right? So then your mind's like, okay, you can't do any more. And it's ridiculous. It is just funny. So, and there's a book I read recently about that. It's called Fear is My Homeboy by Judy Holland. Oh my God. And she's a improv. Mm-hmm. It is great. It is so great. And it's all about that. It's like, no, you got to kick it to the curb. When it comes on in, just go,
yeah,
get on out. But it's because we're human.
Yeah.
Right. And your mind does not like change at all. And it will do everything it can to keep you right where you are. Right where you are. And it's important to know that. And you get, when you have kids and you're all caught up in all of the stuff, because life's not about you anymore. It's right. You're raising, and you get all caught up, and you don't even realize the situation, right? Until, like, for me, if they go up to their dads and I go, okay. And then I walk the dog. Maybe I have a little martini. I'm like, oh. The realization comes in, right? And then you have to go, what are you going to do about this? And it is fear, and it's all based on fear, and excuses are based on fear. When you realize that, right, you're like,
and those fears just get in our way all the time. And I know that it's even part of what your book talks about, Seth, because you talk about how a lot of people have that burning desire to do more than what they are, but they don't know how to navigate to get there. So what are some of the navigation tips that you would give somebody like myself or somebody like our other guests and everything, Mr. Teddy, in order to navigate those fears and everything? So definitely, what are some of the navigation tips that you would give? Because that's part of what the book is What's Next is about. So what are some of those navigation tips?
Block out all the noise. All of it. Social pressures, it comes through, sorry, Teddy, but it comes through Hollywood. It comes through social media. Anything comes through your phone, the TV, any device. There is so much underlying negativity that we don't even realize. Mm-hmm. And the news, is just it's the worst thing to listen to, because the elevation, it's so elevated and creates drama, and then all of a sudden your mind is bombarded, your phone is bombarded with information. And the biggest thing is to mind your mind and think for yourself. And our generations are losing that, and it's scary to see. And just, don't get caught up in all the junk, because it literally is all junk. Your main purpose, is to take care of your family. And live your life with purpose and be kind to other people, which the majority of people are. And you have to mind this, or else you just can't succeed. And I think back, we're all in the same age. I think back of when I was younger. Oh my God, I miss that so much. We not bombarded with. We see how much we see now is beyond the amount of it. And I just want to go back to, all the kids getting together in the neighborhood after, in the afternoon, and just relaxing. And now our minds aren't relaxed because it's constantly like somebody is going just like this. all day long. So
It's interesting you say that, Seth, because part of the things that you were saying that I was thinking about was I watched this documentary recently. It's actually up for being on a part of a documentary festival, whether it gets accepted or not. I don't know yet because it's still being in that judging position and everything. But the film was about the new generation, the folks that I guess would be considered like the ones that are in their teens and 20s now. So I guess that's Gen Z and the millennials and things of that. Yeah, that's how we get these new generations mixed up. But it was talking about them. It was talking about the positive side of what they were doing in the sense of being one of the most tolerant generations of all times, and in terms of like gender orientations, in terms of race, and in terms of a lot of other issues that are out there, are definitely concerned about the climate. But the one thing that they said that was one of the negatives was that how so many of them, and I'm sure even your daughters are caught up this, are caught up in that like mentality, meaning that they want to be sure that they get the right amount of likes on Facebook or the right amount of positivity coming back at them and all of that. So that's one of the negatives because they said that that's hurting them in terms of a lot of them are dealing with having to go to therapists and things of that nature because they're so caught up in that whole like culture of wanting to be liked by everybody that's in their society and all of that. So as a mom, how have you dealt with that? And have you found that your daughters have been part of that? And then I'd love to hear some of Teddy's thoughts as well.
So, no, my daughters aren't caught up in it. They are not on Facebook. They do have Instagram, but they do not post anything. And they're on TikTok, which drives me crazy, but they don't post anything. All they do is look at the animals and some funny videos, and that's it. Because and this could be because from when they were in 7th grade, they went out to the Nike National and ran in 7th grade. I mean, they've been out there every single year, obviously until last. And the last time they were out, they won. And so they are, I mean, I'm sitting one night flipping through while everybody's asleep, and the Yes station. And there they are. And I was like, what the heck? My kids, there they are on the Yes station because they must have been recapping the year, right?
Right.
And I just went, and they know that they're in the limelight and they are watched from colleges, everything all the time, that they do nothing. They don't post, they don't do anything. And all of that comes from, my dad was, and they say this, he was the only man they looked up to. My dad passed 3 years ago. The only man, not their dad. And it's crushing for us, right? When they say that and they feel this loss. But and I've told them, so they're up here. I said, it's lonely being at the top. You're going to have people that are going to want to bring you down, but I'd rather be at the top with this many friends and supporters than on the bottom where everybody's tearing you down because it's no place to be.
No, I definitely agree with you on that.
Right. And the whole, and we don't, I mean, I got in this discussion with somebody I work with the other day about systemic racism. And she's like, it's everywhere. And I looked at her and I went, really? Oh, yes, it is. I said, so you're saying it's in my household. It's in everybody's household right here. It's in my kids' team. It's in our high school, which none of it goes on. I mean, we're fortunate in that. And I said, I'm like, it's not everywhere. So when we were talking earlier, Mark, about where you live, things are different depending where you live, right? And people can't get caught up in, one, where they live, because it's not the same everywhere. Two, what they hear on the news, because it's not the same everywhere. And I sat here and I said, you know what? I have an instance for you that's being taught in school. So, little kid right out here, next town over, 2nd grade, they're being taught about, just had her name, and I can't believe I can't. The little black girl on the bus, right? So that she was had to sit in her own space, so on and so forth. So this kid's on the bus. This little black girl gets on the bus, and he says to her, "You can't get on this bus."
Wow.
Second grader. And I said, right there, the teachers union is putting this stuff into be placed. So this stuff is happening. How do you teach a second grader to process that properly? And it was breaking my heart because now it just, and if it's one kid, how many other kids are not processing that properly? And I said, this is being taught in our school systems, unfortunately. And it drives me crazy. And I was literally just down in Raleigh a couple weeks ago, driving through. My brother lives in Clarksburg, and I was having conversations with people. And I like to talk about this stuff because I want to know what's going on in other areas, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, we actually had the.
I don't get it. They're like, we don't see people as color. We see people as people. It was a young black man. He goes, my wife is white. He goes, this doesn't register with us. I don't understand. And I said, okay. And I'm glad I talked about it because I'm sitting here going, and I don't get caught up in it. But when you hear it all the time, you're just like, what is going on? And again, the areas that you live in, that's what I have experienced, and I don't.
Yeah, and definitely, and we all have different experiences. And on the opposite side of that, and we were actually talking about this on this network earlier today and everything. You can also have the opposite extreme because here in North Carolina, they just recently, I think our state legislature is trying to put through a bill that will not allow you to discuss race or sex in the school system. And I don't know how you could discuss history and not at least have those discussions and things along those lines. So some of our state legislators, and there's a Republican-controlled legislature and a Democratic governor, but looks like they're pushing it through that you could not literally have a discussion around, say, the civil rights struggle or slavery or a number of other things because they've actually pushed this law through, which also makes no sense as well.
So there's there's history being replaced.
Wow.
It erased, excuse me.
Right.
I don't know. We could go on forever about this, and we've moved on. I don't understand why we teach about it, talk about it because it's important to talk about, but we've moved on, right? In our culture and our,
moved on in some ways, but in some ways there's sometimes that there's not as much moving on as there should be. And there's definitely, I agree that there's been a lot of things that have been moved on in terms of society. I actually have some friends that are of interracial couples and things of that nature. But as I'm sure Teddy can talk to you about it, I definitely can say that my nephews have had it as well. There is still sometimes a fear of the police based on some of the incidents that have happened, and there is still that talk that goes on in certain communities. So, Teddy, if you want to share a little bit about that, because I'm thinking you probably had to have that conversation just in terms of respect to police, but also being concerned about police based on some of the incidents that have happened around the country and everything. So, I know you said you have a kid as well, so I'm sure you've had that conversation with your kids.
I have a son. Because of COVID, I'm wondering how to. I'm gonna think back when I was younger, and my mother used to. It was me, my brother, and my cousin. The boys, and we didn't get a spanking all the time, but we did get spankings. And I think back on every spanking, and I deserved it because I was like either stealing, doing things that I shouldn't have, that she didn't want me to keep doing. And I remember her saying to me, she goes, Teddy, and I'm glad she explained, but my dad didn't. She explained like, hey, sweetie, it hurts me more than hurt you. And I was like, I never believe that, whatever. But it's true. It hurts me more than hurt you. I'm spanking you because I don't want the police to spank you. And I never understood that when I was a kid. And I was like, oh. And then as I get older, I'm like, that's what she meant. She goes, I spank you because I don't want for the police to spank you. They and not all, because I have friends with a policeman, white. This is what I think. I'm talking about my wife. Not every white policeman is bad. Not every black boy is bad. there's good and bad in everybody. But I do want to I'm going to have that conversation. My son's 12, and it's because of COVID. He doesn't get out as much, but I'm definitely talking to him when I can and let him understand that not that every situation is this way or every situation should be done this way, but you gotta have respect for whoever. And I do. Yes, sir. No, sir, ma'am. Keep your hands where they're seen, where they can be seen. Don't let anything be misconstrued. And pray a lot and God, and just but always do your things. Don't that hostility. And my cousin was a sheriff. He retired, and he was telling me, and friends of mine that were on the force were telling me, you just keep your hands where they're seen. As Black, you have to. It's weird that you have to. We just have to do this to our kids, Black son or daughter. We have to talk to them. And people say, my friends that are white say it doesn't happen, but a lot of my friends know it does. You just have to be prepared. And I think I don't have all the answers, but I do tell them how to, when you're stopped, let your hands be seen, and no, sir, yes, sir, and my mother told me this one thing that really clicked me. She goes, Teddy, don't ever run. Don't ever run from the police. She goes, we guilty people run. And I was like, I never understood that either. She goes, you stay there. You say, no, I don't care if your friends run. You stay there. Because she was like, even back then in the 70s, 80s, she's gonna get, things could happen, shot in the back, and this and that. Stay there and deal with it. Whatever happens, you stay there and deal with it. You say no, sir, you have respect, and she always brought that, and even now more so. I'm thinking, wow, I tell my son that, and I tell my nieces that, and my sister. You just gotta. But I know one thing: there's some good ones, and I just hope that and pray that there's good white police, there's good Black kids. So we're not all. Everybody's not. And I tell my son that. I said, buddy, my mom said, my mom said some of the stuff. He's going to tell you, I never want you to go to all Black college. I never want you to go all Black high school. I want you to go to different cultures and be exposed to different cultures and different things in life. And I really love that about her. I was like, man, I'm so glad. I have friends, and I started learning this music. I like Devo and I like Parliament, old group like that. And I'm like, and it's just, I have friends now that I'm like, wow, it's so nice to appreciate good food of every culture. And that we're all different. We should, and I know people have said this before, we should bring that in and learn from each other, but we do have to be aware, talk about it. Like this one guy said, somebody says, we have more similarities than we have differences, and we all bleed red blood, and we all gonna die one day.
That's what upsets me the most out of all this, because I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't. What happens for me is when this is being shoved down, I'm like, and I don't get offended at all, whatever. But that does, because I don't live my life that way. You know what I mean? At all. And getting back to how much richer are our lives of knowing whoever and cultures. And I talk about that in my book too, about different cultures and all the different nuances that are within all different cultures, and they all need to be respected. And why it bewilders me I shouldn't say bewilders me, because there's a whole nother aspect of people who think completely crazy, which is
no, there's some people out there that definitely think crazy on a lot of different levels.
Right. But I just don't, I can't. It leaves me speechless, because I don't know.
No, I definitely get you, Seth, and I definitely get what you're saying, and I definitely think that we need to have greater support and definitely understanding. I know that I used to go before COVID to the International Festival a few times that is held in Raleigh, North Carolina, and part of that was to see different cultures, to see people of different ethnicities, different styles of life, and definitely share a little bit of whatever their dance or music and different things was. And I thoroughly enjoyed meeting people of various ethnicities throughout the country and talking to them and hearing a little bit about what their life was like, whether it was here in the United States or some of them were back and forth. So some of them may even tell you how it was like in their individual countries and all of that. So I agree with you on that. And I also have no problem with people celebrating their culture, because I know that I have relatives that are strongly, some of the members of my family identify more with the African American side, and some identify more with the Native American side. So those that identify with the Native American side are very much involved in the powwow culture and all of that. But I'm glad to see them in their outfits and celebrating that part of our lineage and everything.
Yeah.
It's not something that I've done yet, but I enjoy watching my cousin Verna and some of her other relatives that are celebrating that part of their life. And that's actually even comes back to what you were saying, Teddy. I don't have any problem because a lot of times we still have to have, even though the playing field on a lot of levels is becoming more level, it's still not totally level. So that for that reason, I'm not ready to throw out the HBCUs, the historically black colleges and universities, because historically they definitely helped level the playing field, and I think they still have a role in terms of doing that now, because not everybody can attend, say, a PWI, which is a predominantly white institution, and all of that. So I do think that they still have a role in that, and ironically, in some ways, that role is because of some people would call it reverse affirmative action. It is also helping some of the other cultures as well, because like here in Durham, we've got a well-known college in terms of a law college, and I want to say that the population of law students is probably, if not predominantly white, it's definitely got a large white population, because they realize that it is a top school and they can get a minority scholarship because it's an HBCU and all of that. So it definitely sometimes works in almost like a reverse method as well, because it helps some of those even get into jobs on the state level and things along those lines. And I don't know about anybody that's got a federal job that I'm aware of yet, but definitely supply help people get into state jobs, including some major state jobs with state government and all of that. And I'm sure there's probably some federal jobs that has helped people get into as well. I just can't think of one off the top of my head and everything, but definitely, I definitely believe in celebrating culture, and I think that that's something we should definitely do on a regular basis. I love this deep conversation. We may come back to it, but I did want to ask you, Teddy, about something that you had the privilege of working. Speaking of working with stuff, and this was years ago with some amazing folks. This might even surprise Seth and everything. But what was it like way back in the day of the early 2000s, working with folks like, Betty White, and speaking of folks that have gone through and had some great history, Steve Martin, Queen Latifah, and Gene Smart. And those were just some of the people that were on that one of the movies that you were featured in. So definitely, I think that movie was called Bringing Down the House. But
that was so much fun. I got to say, that was so much fun. I didn't see that coming, like I always say. You just go read for something, and then you go read for it again. And I'll never get the audition. And I had a lot of experience. I'm not proud of this. You smoking a joint. We smoking a joint. We were laughing at the bar, and I'm doing the audition, and I'm doing it like I've been here before, and this is what got me in trouble a lot. Now it's funny how I was there at my mother's, and I play a lot of cops, right? And then the one guy, this is another off the subject, Drake and Josh played this cop, and then the guy goes, "Oh," and it's just weird how I grew up doing bad stuff, ending up in the backseat of cop cars. Now I'm in the front seat as a cop. But anyway, I did a lot of bud, and it was so much fun. But the stuff they had you do, growing up, I did the bud. And I'll get there, I was done with that, and I'm thinking, wow, on the set, this guy plays a character smoking. And I think that my point is, I think that's what kind of got the role. I did that. I was like, choking, and the director was there laughing, like it was so real. Because I was faking. I was like, and we were having fun. We at the bar, it was so real. And I was going, I wonder if I would have did it that well if I hadn't had tasted that when I was a kid and growing up. But you just never experience.
Know. Well, that's your life experience has brought you through. Well, that comes
out. Exactly. I had something to bring to it. And that was the second call. And I was like, wow. And we ended up we worked on it for 4 days. And then they get a fifth day. Like, we need you longer. I was like, man, cool. I got to know this friend of mine named Vince Ward. He works a lot now. And he was on, what's it called? Walking Dead. And we just had a fun time. And you get to know everybody there. And let me tell you something. I took some pictures with Steve Martin and oh, man, Eugene Levy. And Queen Latifah, Dana, and they were all so nice. And what's her name? Joan Plowright. She was such a sweetie. We spoke in the joint with her at the bar, and we made Steve Martin dance, and everybody was so cool. Steve was really drained when I was taking pictures with him. I was trying to take pictures, and he was like, "Oh, that's the next one." He was in between scenes, but everybody else, he was so nice still. So humble. They were very humble, and that was a long time ago. He said what inspired me, and I was thinking to myself, God has blessed me. When I get full about how I should be doing this, and He'll bless me where I'm in a scene on my demo with like established people. And I'm thinking to myself, I always think when I get the part, and they're going, how grateful I am. I'm going, There was a lot. I'm talking to myself, Teddy. There was a lot of people reading for this, and God blessed you with it. And you're in a scene with, you have lines with Omar Epps and Shamar Moore and Ryan Philippe, and I love Annie Potts. I had a scene with Annie Potts, and I'm going, I'm so honored to be here. There was a lot of guys reading for this, and that role, Bringing Down the House, I was going, wow, man, I got to keep doing this. So I think that's what gave me energy. And I thought about it. I was like, if I quit now, because I'm mad and frustrated, things aren't working out, I didn't get that role. How is that a slap in the face to God? Like, of all the things you blessed you with, you're going to quit? You don't know what I have in store for you next, but you're going to quit? Come on, dude. No, don't quit, man. Just keep going. Keep having faith. Keep doing it. And even if you pass away before then, just think of just enjoy the journey. Like you said, the journey. It's a journey, man. And I'm shocked. Every time I'm blessed with something, I'm going, what did I do that got this? Didn't get those 10,000 ones that I didn't get. And I'm going, and it's such an honor. I'm in the person, being with the person, like recently, the thing I can't even say. I signed an NDA on this news thing that's coming, but it's such a blessing and honor. And then you can put them on your demo and you're going, you know what? I'll get depressed. I'll look at my demo reel and I'm going, you know what, God? Okay. I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna stop tripping. Thank you. I'm honored. But them guys was funny. One of the hardest things was not laughing in the scene, staying in the character. Staying in the character, being cool at the bar, making them dance, and when Steve Martin is goofily dancing in the hood. It was so much fun. That was one of the. That was really nice. You just wanted to be living. You're like, man, I didn't realize how nice it was till it's over. You're like, that was so much fun. Wow. Everything would be that fun. But anyway, I'm just honored. I'm very blessed.
Are the biggest myths that folks have about Hollywood? We oftentimes hear people that are on the East Coast and different other parts that are having this attitude or this thought about what Hollywood life is like and California life is like. So what would you say is the biggest misconception people have, and what are some of the ways that you can even get rid of some of those misconceptions? I think too often we get caught up in wondering about the celebrity lifestyles of the big celebrities, and we don't see that everybody else goes through this out there.
Exactly. You don't see the ones that are. I call it my friends call it you're working actor. I know one thing, one of the misconceptions, you don't bounce from role to role. At least I don't. I don't know about them other guys. Maybe when you get up here, you have a graveyard job, you're doing homework, you start doing, like 4 years ago, I started doing stand-up. I'm like, I like it. It's very therapeutic. I like talking to you. So, and it's fun. It's like, you like making people laugh. And not only that, the roles that I was blessed with got better since I did stand-up. A lot of Steve Martin. When you're a stand-up, you're comfortable. You do a lot of dialects. I do a lot of dialects where I play these characters, like one guy named Sakwati Fatu. And you start believing who they are. This is what I believe. And you start talking like them. You are from Uganda. They will believe what you believe. If you believe you are from that place, then they will believe it. So I have to create this character. I have to be him, and it's fun. And now I have another character from Australia, and he says his father and mother split up, and his father was in the military. So that's why and he speaks like that. And you have to believe it, and it's so much fun because it makes you more valuable when you do read for roles. You're confident in that area. You're like, you know what? Keep learning. In the meantime, learn this, do this character, and have stuff ready, especially because when you do the comedy, you have things set this way, but then it can go off to something funnier. Don't be afraid to go off to something funnier. Go with it. Just have fun. And they have fun. There's something that you didn't think was funny or act funny. They thought it was funny, so go with that. And don't be afraid to. But I tell you, man, it's misconceptions. I think, like you say, you bounce from role to role. That doesn't happen. Everybody's crazy out here. That is not happening. Some of us are sane, and some of us are like just living and enjoying things. And a lot of us have jobs, like you say, like Steph was saying, we have other jobs. We're trying to do this and that. I don't know. We just and a lot of us are not on drugs. Not that I'm judging anybody. I'm glad I went through that when I was younger. I did do some things in jail and all that other stuff. And I tell my wife, she's a lawyer. And I said, babe, and she was never going to have that second date with me because I told her I was too comfortable with her. And I was telling her about my jail stays. And I shouldn't have did that. And I told her I used to be a dancer. I told her I was a stripper for 7 years. And she was not going to have a second date with me. So her sister, I thank her sister all the time. I said, thank you, Valencia, for making your sister have a second date with me. Because my mother says, you can't tell everybody everything about you in the first 2 minutes. I've got comfortable. And I said, my mom was just being, but I'm glad she had that second date. And I just think my wife, I tell her, I said, babe, the most important thing was not that I went to jail twice. It was that the fact that I didn't get convicted twice. He's like, she doesn't go for that. That was a blessing that I went through that when I was younger. I learned a lot. Like, you know what? I don't like that. That's not a good role model. That's not a good for my son and for life. And I'm supposed to be a good role model for just people in general, younger people. You know, I'm like, no. So, but you use that. That's your story. That's your testimony. You can help people with that, even with the dancing. She said, don't tell people you were a stripper. Why not? You might help them. I'm not ashamed. Everybody danced sometime in their life. Everybody went to jail twice.
He's done
I was
something.
gonna think my comedy. Everybody went to jail, right? You went to jail, right? Okay, and you're a better person for it, right? It's just me, just you went to jail twice. Just you. She goes, I'm an attorney. Please don't tell people that. I said, babe, I got nothing to hide. That's between me and the Lord. I ain't got nothing to hide. So anyway, but I'm just.
Teddy, I'll help you feel better. I got arrested once.
Thank you. Somebody else still here that's successful today. Thank you. See, it happens, man. I was just hanging with the wrong people. I didn't know the car was stolen. We was driving around this car all day. No, I didn't know. We told the football coach, we ain't going to. We didn't tell him this in our minds. We're like, I ain't going to practice. You didn't play us in the game. We're gonna drive around this car all day. I'm like, man, we're gonna have some fun. We were supposed to go to practice. We drove around this stolen car all day. No lie, it was a beautiful 1987 Saab. It was black. And then we getting back on the freeway because he's complaining about my driving. I'm downshifting. He says I'm doing it wrong. So you driving. Thank God I did that. As we get back on the freeway, Manasi, our Tongan friend, the cop pulled us over. And this is the fun. I'll tell you one thing. He pulled us over and like Manasi's driving. I think I'm in the back and there was four of us. He's sitting there, goes, Manasi, do you have your license and registration? He's like, no. And we're just sitting there going, dang, I thought you said it's your car. He goes, no, I don't have license registration. He goes, do you have insurance for the car? He goes, no, I have no insurance. And the cop goes like this. Do you have the keys to the car? He goes, yes, give me the keys. He goes back and checks everything. He was just frustrated, like, I can't believe these fools. And we're going, I thought you said this is your. He went back. He said, fellas, get out of the car one at a time. You're being arrested for Grand Theft Auto. And I never remembered in my mind, Grand Theft Auto. I was like, dang, dude, we've been driving around all day in Oakland in the worst parts of the area. Thank God, worst parts, buying marijuana and buying other things. I'm like, so God was with me. That part, and the other time was other things. And so thank you. And just, I was like, man, but good thing when you're younger, when I was older, you're like, that's not the thing to do with you have a family. And I was gonna say this too. When I was, before I had my wife and I was single, I would bounce from job to job and just, now I gotta bring money in. I gotta work for a job. I want as a man, right. Growing up with my mom, a single parent, you gotta contribute. You gotta do stuff. I can't just sit there wait from job to job and
no, man, you can't wait from job to job. And one of the things that you just brought up that I think even Seth can relate to is that as an entrepreneur, as a actor, as just somebody who's trying to make it in this world and everything, I think that we all have to have some degree of those backup jobs. And sometimes those backup jobs may not be the greatest jobs in the world and everything, because we've all had those jobs that we didn't necessarily enjoy. It might have been the pay of the job. It might have been the nature of the job, because I know I've even got friends to this day that are driving Uber and Lyft and Greyhound. I mean, not Greyhound, but Grubhub and things of that nature. And definitely, I've got friends that have definitely, had other, we'll call them extracurricular activities to try to make their money and everything along those lines. And I'm sure that we definitely had some folks that have done some of those dancing kind of jobs as well as things of that nature. And I'm sure that even Seth might have known some people, even there in Saratoga, in those bars that might have been working in some of those jobs as well.
Oh, yeah. Yep, absolutely. You got to, hey, you know what? You got to do what you got to do. And that's the point. You're doing what you got to do. If everybody stays alive, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the thing, is everybody stays alive.
Everybody stays alive.
I like that.
Right.
But if Denzel said, we have to do what we have to do we want to.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Yep.
You got to do what you got to do in order to survive. There's no doubt about that. Teddy, I do have to share this story with you that you'll get a kick out of this. I've actually never been one of those people, and Seth will get a kick out of this as well. Never been one of those people that was really into the drug culture and things of that nature. But it's happened to me that a few times that the drug culture would stumble across me and everything. So I remember that as a youngster, I was attending a party. I think it might even been a party that involved some of my family members and everything. And of course, there were certain, things that were floating around that were definitely enjoyable and very tasty and all of that. So I remember that I grabbed some of these things, and they weren't quite cookies; they were brownies, and they were definitely things along those lines. And I'm sitting there going, like, having a real good time. I think I must have eaten about, I would say, maybe 6 to 7. It might have even been more than that. But I knew I was getting a nice little buzz going on and everything. And at some point, somebody came to me and they were like, "Hey, Mark, do you know what you're eating and everything?" And I'm like, I think I was in my teens at the time. So I'm like, "Yeah, these are some great brownies. These are delicious brownies." They're like, "No, do you know what is in those brownies?" I'm like, and as a kid, and you can relate to this having teenage daughters and everything. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, as a kid, I'm going like, sugar,
flour, egg.
Right. I'm naming all the known ingredients. And they're like, "Oh, Mark, there's something else in there too." And I'm like, still sitting there feeling halfway giddy, and I'm going like, trying to think. I'm like, butter? I don't know. And finally they break it down and tell me what's in there, and I'm like,
That's funny.
Okay, I guess I'll go lay down somewhere and try to recover now that y'all have told me what's all going on here.
That is funny. Yeah, no, I was never into the drug department myself either. I don't know, it just didn't make sense to me. I do like my martini though.
Nothing wrong with the martinis. I do still like my Heineken's and some of my other beers, and I have friends that sell wines and things of that nature. So yes, definitely, we all have those vices. Now, Teddy, you'll get a kick out of this one as well. I also remember that as a high school kid, I would, like I said, I never smoked. It comes back to that whole thing that I know Bill Clinton and others said, and I can actually say that it was the truth with me. I do not like the whole concept of the smoking and the puffing and all of that. So I remember having some friends of mine that were, I think I was coming back from college, so they were probably in that 17, 20-year-old category and everything. And they were getting really high, really having a good time getting high. And I knew that I did not want to smoke to get high, and I knew that there were no brownies around, and I can't remember the brownies that might have happened before or after. So we were in a car. So being in the car, I was trying to figure out how can I have the impact of it being high without being high. So in my infinite wisdom, in my early 20s and late teens and everything, I decided to roll up the window intentionally to get the intentional contact high.
Get that contact. There you go. A Dutch oven. That's the oven. That's the oven right there. There you go.
Yep.
You said there was no brownies around.
There's no brownies.
I'll tell you this. When I was younger, we didn't care, this and that. And as I got older, I didn't want the smell to follow me. I didn't want people judging me. So there was edibles. And in California, everybody got their card, and I'm gonna get my card, and and how look here, I can get that. They're gonna get edibles, and there was these cookies, man. They're supposed to be like, cookies are supposed to be brown, tan. Cookies were green, and then and I should have picked that up. You could section them like a pizza. And I take a piece, and I would be like, man, I would be flying for like 6-7 hours. Whereas smoking is shorter, but you're just like, everything's funnier. You're a better drawer. You're keener. You're just like, but each his own. I can't now. I don't because to me, honestly, I love drinking is fine. I love drinking. Not love drinking, but I drink when I want to relax. But bud, to me, I tell my family, my cousin, everything. It just kind of, I lose my what's it called? I get too comfortable. I get too chilled. I lose my tenacity, my drive, and everything's cool. And I'm like, no, everything's not cool. I want to be focused. So I got to really earn it. When I get maybe in my career this high, or when I get where I want to be, then maybe I can relax away. Now it's wine, hard stuff. I like hard stuff. I remember we went to Maryland, and I was so excited because I could bring back some corn liquor. You remember that corn liquor that my uncles used to drink at funerals in those mayonnaise jars, and you could smell as a kid. You cough. This will put hair on your chest. And I was like, okay. But it's that clear stuff, and it was 189 proof. So I snuck it back in my suitcase. I wrapped it up, and I was scared. This is like before COVID, like last year. I still got that bottle and that thing.
You should be scared.
I do sip it. No, me about. It's funny how I get up my fear of that. I'm like, whatever. By the third sip, I'm like, everything's gonna be okay. Just go. And with wine, I like wine because I can just still function. I like my wines. I like my what's that one? Moscato. I like anything, any kind of wines. But I think whatever you can handle, and no judgment. I think people just do what you can handle. I know what I can handle. What makes me lazy is certain things. And I'm like, I can't be lazy. I can't be complacent. I get complacent, and I'm like, nope.
Right. Awareness, right? Awareness of your existence, right?
Yeah, you totally have to be aware. And I definitely, the corn liquor, I can relate to that as well. I remember there was a young lady that came from Houston, and I was actually trying to court her and everything. So she came in to visit my family and everything. And first off, I don't know what I was thinking, that I decided to have somebody come over for what amounted to a first date on a Easter trip. So I was probably putting way too much pressure on her and everything. And I think I was in my 30s at that time and everything. So I was probably putting way too much pressure on her to make that the first date. But I remember she came in, she visited, and she was crocheting the entire time. So as soon as me and my brother picked her up, and we drove her up to I think it was my great aunt's house, and she was crocheting and basically ignoring the heck out of us. As a matter of fact, my brother and all of my family members were looking like, Mark, why did you invite this woman over here? She's not even being social. She's not paying any attention to us. She's not enjoying us. She's just over there crocheting the entire time.
It's a lost art.
Yeah,
it's a lost art. She's got it going on.
So she was crocheting. Ironically, Teddy, she was an actress. She was an actress out of Houston and everything. So she was crocheting. She was crocheting and doing the whole 9 yards. But both of these great aunts and great uncle have passed on since that time. But I had a great uncle that made his own, what you were talking about. He made that homemade liquor. He made the corn liquor. He made all of that. And he did it of different flavors. He had dandelion wine. He had different other kind of things going on. He was making those hard liquors and everything. All of a sudden, I remember my brother and his can't think of it, his then girlfriend, because he's been married a couple of times. They went back into the back and started having and sharing the wine and just having a good old time. They called me back there, and then eventually I called, trying to think, Leah, I think it was her name, called her back there and everything. And then she all of a sudden, from being the total anti-social person, she became very social. So she was just having a good old time, enjoying herself and all of that. So like I said, everybody was looking at her like, wait a minute, was this the same child that was ignoring us a minute ago? The same child that was not paying any attention?
That corn liquor, it'll loosen you up.
That corn liquor, it loosens up the tongue, loosens up everything else. Like I said, I remember that when she went back, and she was staying at a local hotel, I remember she went back and then eventually caught the flight back. I think she emailed me or called me back later on, and she was like, by the way, does your uncle have any more of that corn liquor and anything? Can you ship it to Houston?
Exactly.
Like, wait a minute. So the date went nowhere, but you want the corn liquor. Okay.
Oh my God, that's hysterical.
I don't want to date you personally. I just want the corn liquor.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's it.
Don't want you at all. Just bring the liquor.
Now you can find it everywhere. You can even get apple pie flavored.
I saw that. You know what's funny though, you guys? You know what's funny? In California, you can't have it shipped to you. I can't find it here. I have to. When we went to Maryland,
they don't have it in the stores.
The laws in some states, you can't have it shipped here. You have to drive it yourself or sneak it on plane. I rolled up a bunch of clothes, big old jug. Because I looked at the laws. I was like, man, I looked on the internet. I can't get it. So I was coming from Maryland. We wrapped it up. And I was like, I'm taking this. If I get caught, fine. This is this. But it was a big jug. And it's still, that was like 2 or 3 years ago. Right. Yeah, but there's different laws. States have different laws. But I was going to say this to you guys real quick. I was having this brownie. And it had 3 X's on it. And you think I would have known, this is my first time with the edibles. I was like, you know where this is going. So I take some and I'm waiting 20, 30 minutes. I'm like this. And then you feeling that ego. I'm a man and this is nothing. So I take a little bit more. I don't feel nothing. 40 minutes. I'm like, this is crap. It was probably fake. I ate the rest of the brownie, the whole brownie, 3 X's. And I'm like, then I'm so up there. I was like, oh my God, everything. It felt so great. And it went from the great to paranoid to scared. I was so scared. I was in this little bathroom. I was like, and my heart was beating. I was going, I thought I had like 3 or 4 coffees, and my wife didn't know. And I was going, oh my God, I'm gonna OD. I'm gonna be the first person to OD on marijuana. And I was looking in the mirror. I was in the mirror. I was like, come on, get yourself together. I was mad. I was like, get yourself together. Don't be no punk. And then I was like, it was such a wild like emotion. And next thing you know, I'm throwing up everywhere. All over the little bathroom. I was just, and before that, I got on my knees by the toilet to do what I had to do. Didn't do it, stood up and sprayed it everywhere. And I was like, And I was like, how do I tell my wife? But I'm telling her, I said, and bless her heart. She even though she just like, I'll clean it up, just go upstairs. I'm so, this is not, I guess my lesson is, know your cutoff. Know your cutoff. Be patient. Eat this much of the brownie, eat a little bit, and then sit down and shut up. And just drink your water and wait.
Triple X. It means
don't be impatient. See impatience and triple X. And learn from those 3 X's. They mean something. Take 1 X, eat it, and put the rest away. But I felt so dumb. I was like, you're gonna OD, and people are gonna read about you. You OD on marijuana. What an idiot!
I can see the news story now.
The funeral, man. Look at this. Who died? He OD on marijuana. A brownie.
Not a brownie.
First person ever. That, like I said, that would be all over your tombstone and everything else. It'd be all over there. You would have no kind of mercy, folks. I mean, I could only imagine the eulogies because everybody would be clowning you doing the eulogies. So
you ain't lying. It would die. Man, dude, that's true. My friends, guys in general, men in general would clown you. This brother OD. He'll be a brownie on your tombstone. You weak, man. They feel like you weak, dude.
It'll be the shape of a brownie.
You ain't tough, man.
And everything on it.
It was like a brick. It'd be 3 X's. It'd be like he couldn't measure up. He couldn't man up to the brownie. He lost. He's weak. Have fun in the afterlife, weaky. Punk.
Yeah, they would talk to you. Seth, you worked for a while in a couple of that whole bar environment and everything of that nature. And I've always wondered, because I've had friends that have worked in that environment as well. It seems to be that sometimes those people can be some of the best comedians in life as well and everything. So I was wondering your experiences just in some of the things that you had when you were doing that kind of work and everything. And sometimes it can also be difficult because I know that there was a very popular bar here in Durham. I used to love going to it. It was actually a jazz bar. And I know you said you were a jazz fan. So jazz/R&B bar, I guess is the correct title. There was more R&B bands than jazz bands. But definitely they would have jazz bands. But they would sometimes, I used to love going to this place called Talk of the Town. But that time I was living downtown in a loft apartment and everything. I can tell you that as soon as I left the building, I had to literally rush to the washing machine to wash the clothes because it was so smoke-filled and all of that. Because it was a wonderful bar, a great bar. And like I told you, I'm not a smoker, but I definitely probably had enough smoke in my lungs from the times that I was hanging out at that bar. Because like I said, I just literally remember, like, as soon as you got outside of the place and would be walking up the steps, I'd be like, this smells like smoke. Oh, that's my shirt.
He's following me. Oh, that's me.
Well, for my experience, so I started bartending when I was 18 and waitressing when I was 18. And then it was cigarette smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I had hair like a lion's mane. I have curly hair. And so I would obviously sometimes I worked doubles, but my normal shift was 5 to in New York, in Dutchess County anyway. It was cutoff was 4 o'clock a.m.
Wow.
So I'd work that 12-hour shift. But it was all cigarette smoke at the time. You didn't smell any pot, nothing. Now I'll go outside on my deck in my rural little neighborhood here, and I'm like, that's not a skunk.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? And walking downtown now, it's everywhere. And I don't know what to think about that. I'm like, okay, we got rid of this. I mean, I would rather, like, if I'm drinking, I'll smoke some cigarettes. I don't know, whatever. I'll smoke a cigar, whatever. But the whole, excuse me, the whole pot thing just never. I don't know if because my boyfriend smoked it, had the bong. It was disgusting, and I just couldn't stand the smell of it. And I don't know, but now it's just everywhere. So when I bartend here at the track, so Teddy, I bartend at Saratoga Racecourse here.
Uh-huh.
So during 6 weeks during the summer, and I've had he start standing in my bar and goes to light up. I'm like, what are you doing? Wow. And this was a couple years ago. I'm like, you need to get out. I'm like, you can't just, everybody, it's legal now. I'm like, is it though? Is it though? Driving down the road and all of a sudden you smell it and you're like, Are you supposed to be smoking while you're driving? Isn't that like drinking while you're driving?
I think that's wrong. I see people do that too. You're right. I'm like, you're not supposed to operate anything. I think if you're impaired, I think you're not supposed to operate anything. I think
so too. Right. I'm driving. I'm like, well, where else is it coming from other than the car in front of me, right? So, but yeah, no, I haven't. I haven't experienced any of those. But I never worked in like a city bar, dark and crazy. You know, I mean, we do have those in town. It just was never my scene. But I certainly.
Teddy, I'm also going to ask you.
Totally get high off of you drinking and then using essential oils.
Oh yeah. Oh, Teddy, I've actually got to ask you about something else. I'm just amazed by some of the things that you've had in your career and everything. And I want to know, how do you manage to get involved in a TV series? And I'm sure that as soon as I say what this TV series is about, Seth's going to bust out laughing, but everything. But how do you get involved in a TV series that's about a rocky relationship, and they also have to deal with an army of militant bedbugs? Yes, I did say that right. Militant bedbugs.
You know, the creator of that, Danny is my friend. I've known Danny for like, he hates to tell me this. He hates when I tell people this because then they're going to ask, I don't want people to know my age. I don't want people to know. I've known Danny for probably 30 years, over 30 years. He hates that. But I'm like, dude, don't worry about that. Like, anyway, I've known him, and you know what happened to him? That really happened to him, the whole bedbug thing. He got an idea, and I was going, and it was fun, and it was like 2 or 3 days, but I never had that happen. I never heard of it. And then it was funny. We did that, and I started reading about it. Happened to a lot of athletes, or people that travel at hotels, and you can't see them until the morning, and bless you. And you wake up and it just bumps all over you. And I'm going, and I never heard of it. I never heard of it, so I started reading, and I'm like, it's just. And he said it happens. It happens a lot. I didn't realize it was that big. I thought that, wow. We grew up in Phoenix. I was probably told 3 or 4. It was roaches, and I remember being big. I woke up and I was like probably 3 or 4. And there was one on my chest, and I was like, and ever since then, I don't like any tags in my shirt. When people play, my wife played my neck. I said, "Babe, please don't do that." They just kind of, I don't like anything crawling on me. I just, ever since then, I'm just a phobia about. I cut all the tags out. I make sure there's just writing in the back of the shirt. I don't want to feel it accidentally or. Yeah. No good. That was deep. That bedbug thing. I was like, and then I started looking on the internet. That's some big stuff at hotels. It's prevalent. It happens. That was deep. But yeah, friend of mine, and even when he said it, I didn't believe it. I was like, okay, you got a film you're doing. I'll do. Yeah, and he's paying, and he was cool. And I talked to him yesterday. Danny's a really good guy, Danny. But yeah, it's just you never know. You never know which way you're gonna go. You just read and.
You never know where these stories are going to come from because, like I said, apparently these are human-sized bed bugs that are in this TV series.
I know, that was fun. They're talking to us, and that was funny. They were characters. They were such characters, and it was fun. It was really fun. Really a blessing, honor.
That's funny.
Fun.
My boyfriend that passed away, he was a stunt driver. So he was a stunt driver. He was a stunt driver. Yeah, on the East Coast, on the West Coast, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so the whole industry is really interesting. And another friend of mine I just got reconnected with, it's like, oh, so I won this, and sends me a picture, and it's an Emmy. I'm like,
wow.
So for sound mixing. But it's so cool. Interesting how when you're talking about, you're reading for something and then it doesn't, but then down the road you're picked up in that, and then all of these things, it is your life career and your life experiences, right? That pull you into all of these things, and just him with this story of the bed bugs and created this. I mean, right? Everything in our life that's creative comes from life experiences, basically.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so much more dear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely created from life experiences, makes it dear and all of that and everything. But one of the things is that sometimes it also, I'm amazed at some of the things that go on in Hollywood because earlier this year, or was it last year, that was involved with the judging for Nevermore, which is our film festival, or one of the film festivals that we do at the Carolina Theater and everything. But one of the producers of one of the films that was involved in there and was selected and was actually shown at the film festival and everything, he was actually also a what do you call him, a stunt driver and also a special effects person. So he does like a lot of the
Wow.
bombs and all of that kind of stuff. And I want to
Mhm.
say that they say that, and I've had his finance person on this show and everything, and I'm trying to get him on at some point. But I think that he said that it is like 75% of his body has been impacted at some point or another. So, like I said, he's been involved in
Wow.
that and definitely had all of those kinds of explosions. And I think he said it's been like 75% of his body has suffered a burn of one sort or another. And I said, they're
Yeah.
going like, that's just scary just to even think about.
Yeah, all the different aspects of your industry, right, Teddy? I mean,
Mhm. Yeah.
all of the different, all of the and it is. I mean, you're the people that you get to work with, and you cross lines. I mean, it just is
It's an honor.
so, and it's so interesting how people can get so starstruck, and I'm like, they're just people. They're just
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
going about their lives. You know, my dad did excavation for James Cagney, did all of his
Mm.
excavation, and Forgione owns Penthouse, all of that stuff, and like these people are just they're just people,
Yeah.
right? Still going about their lives and have extraordinary levels of success, and some not, and so on and so forth. And
Mhm.
it just is remembering that we're all everybody is just getting through their life dealing. We're all dealing with the same stuff, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It's
Yeah, absolutely.
No, totally
the
dealing
same
with the
mental
same stuff
stuff.
and everything. There's no doubt about
Yeah.
that. What do you think are some of the keys? And I'd love to hear from both of you that, and you actually brought it up, Seth, and everything. But what do you think are some of the keys to success? Because, like I said, I've heard we talked about different things that some people may see as being keys to success, being that the spiritual groundness and the humor, or a number of other things. But there may be other things that we haven't touched on that y'all may consider the kind of keys to success as well. So, when you think of even women in business, Seth, who do you think are some of the most successful ones, and what do you think is the key to their success?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. And I don't, you know, it's interesting. I don't have my role model is my dad. I don't have a woman that I look up at. I don't. Then there's so many. And they're so all amazing. It's all amazing because I through all of excuse me through all of my years and experiences, what I've gained is when you get in, you go and see talks or you watch videos of these motivational speakers and so on and so forth. What happens is you get so caught up in that, oh, if I do this, it's going to happen immediately.
Right.
Now, and really, so with that, I've gotten to the point of just really being grounded and knowing it's going to take a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen overnight. All this stuff that you see, you know, oh, I made $12,000 this week. Yeah, but that didn't happen from yesterday. That
Right.
happened for years of work, right?
Yeah.
And so it's so misleading, and it gets. And I feel, and that's one of the reasons I wrote the book too, is I feel that people are just getting so trapped and misled and discouraged from finding their path of what they have to do. And again, it's all mindset and minding what goes in here and surrounding yourself with people who support you. Toxicity is the worst. I don't talk to my dad's brothers because of years of toxicity, years of bad stuff. And it just was the one last thing. I went, done. My kids don't know them. They don't know my cousins. They're done because the anguish and all of that toxicity drags you down where you get caught in here of trying to, and that could be because I'm a woman, the whole maternal thing, the whole emotional thing, and trying to keep everything online in that department. But you know, for me, it's just, there isn't an option. You just have to keep going forward. And You know, this is my 50th year, and it better be the year. It best be the year. And and I'm so grateful for the other thing is being grateful. There are
Yeah.
times where you can't be grateful, and it's okay. You know, you're angry over something, and it's okay, but you can't stay there.
Yeah.
That's the point, right? And just keep on moving forward. You have to just keep moving forward. And it is hard as a single mom and going through COVID and having nobody to go through it with. You know what? It's all alone. And my mom, and then dealing with my mom. I mean, it's, but you just have to keep going. The light on the other side of that tunnel is going to be worth it. You have to have faith and keep asking somebody, whoever it is.
Yeah.
That's what I do. That's what I have to do. And there's time I cry all the time. All the time. All the time, because I miss my dad. I miss my boyfriend. I miss having somebody to care for. I'm tired, you know, the struggle of it all. I didn't expect to be here at this point in my life. However, you know, I have my vision of what I'm going to do, and I'll never retire. I don't want to retire. Right? I still want to, just want to keep on moving and keep on doing. And so my dream is to live right here and be painting.
That's beautiful.
That's one of my paintings. So to be doing that, that's my dream.
Nice.
It's ironic that you're a painter, because actually Teddy is also an artist as well. Because I saw that as one of the things that he does also. That if you look at his resume, it also includes about the painting. So share a little bit about your own painting background as well.
Me?
Well, you know,
Teddy.
Teddy.
I'm sorry.
No,
I love
Teddy.
that. That's nice. I really like that. My brother does it too, and I've been doing it since I was little. And it's like I say, it's therapy. We use it to escape. I remember I haven't done too much recently, which I should do more. And I told myself I'm not gonna. I gotta, because it helps me escape, and I know it helps me just escape and kind of like, I don't know, connect when I'm not painting or drawing. And I'll see things like, oh man, I really want to draw that. Like I was watering the roses, and I take pictures of them so I can use it later on. I'm like, I'm gonna draw that. I'm gonna paint that. That looks nice. It just the rose, simple with water pellets on it. I was like, God, that's nice. Close up, each petal bent over, and each water pellet, and I just like it. It's therapy. It's very therapeutic, and we need it. We need our therapy. We need our art. I think art of any form is just, if you enjoy it, like I said, people enjoy watching. Whether you're cooking something, playing a guitar, painting something, it's engaging and people love it. I was going to say that persistent. You know what I was going to say too, Mark? My phone is getting really low, and my plug is way over there, so I might have to plug it. But I'm 35%. That's where I am now. I was going to say the things the tools that she was saying, I totally agree. The persistence, the keep going, like your daughters, my son, they're depending on you. People are watching that you don't even know, that are looking at you, and people like us, I don't think we know how to quit. And I don't know the meaning of quit. I'm gonna say I thought about quit and go back to Oakland. Okay, and then I'm gonna be mad at everybody else when I should really be mad at myself because I didn't keep going, because I didn't give it my all. And I would look back, could I have done this? I could have done that. Okay, then don't even. I can complain. I can get mad. I can cry. I can crawl. I can do this and that and complain to people. But quitting, I look at a lot of people I admire and what they go, no matter what field of endeavor, but let's just say acting, and they'll get there. And ones that have gotten their breaks is usually later, like Morgan Freeman later, after paying his dues, and also too later, and then also they right at that method where they're about to just quit. That's when the breakthrough comes through, right when it's dark before dawn, you know. And I know one thing, like you said, that once or twice a month I get in the car, I'll go park somewhere, put the tinted windows up, and lose it. Cry and just, and that's why you have the windows tinted. So people walk, what are you looking at? You ever see a grown man cry? Turn away. And I'm just losing it in the car because I'm this age, or I'm where I want to be, or that part I was like, man, that was me. And I tell myself now, after a while I calm down. I'm like, you didn't get it, it wasn't yours. It wasn't meant for you. It's just, but you just deal with it, and And your kids, my son don't care about that. He don't care about what role you did or get. Let's go do this and let's do that. I don't care about that. I care about, me. And so you just deal with it and keep going. And I love the fact that with my faith, with this field, you never know what's next. And it's going to be something awesome. That's what I always think. You put things out there, you throw enough seeds out there, they're not going to grow everywhere. It's like that parable that Jesus says, but that one, like there's a thing I follow called self-improvement, like people self-empowerment and different people speaking. And he goes, man, you can mess up. What they say, failure is a part of success. There's no way you can be successful without failing a bunch. And then it takes just one big break, one thing that you wouldn't have got to if you wouldn't have did it. Like when I was in Oakland and I was sitting out this demo back when we had VHS tapes, I was trying to find an agent, you guys. And I kept sitting this demo out and it was the worst. I thought it was good then, but I was thinking it was 2 monologues. It was me playing the guitar and singing because I was like, it was so cheesy. But I sent out, every week I would send out 5 in the mail, these big VHSs and to these agents. I was living in Oakland. I'm sending out 5, 10, 15 this week, whatever I can afford. And I didn't hear nothing from nobody. I was like, what? All of this? You can't, nothing from anyone, not even I was like, okay, well, I kept sending it out. But what's funny is eventually I did this lady, Helen, she one person, one agency, and it was probably number 73. And I kept thinking to myself, man, if I would have stopped at 20, if I would have stopped at 30, if I would have stopped at 50, I would never got to her, which got me out here. And everything. I remember my buddy, we had 2 motorcycles and 2 beds, and we put them in a van, a budget van, and stuffed them in there and drove here with $600 in my pocket. And we had lived in this house with like 12 rooms and 12 roommates. And we were downstairs on both sides of the kitchen. And them roaches again, Seth, you guys, they was huge. Man, it was LA roaches. They were fast. They were huge. You look through and I was like, oh, that thing was. And they said, they run an equivalent of like 200 miles an hour. We were their size. God, it was big. And he didn't want to die and I didn't want to kill him because I didn't want to see what was going to come out of him. And I crushed him. I was like, when you get up, you got to get up and use the bathroom at 3 a.m. You just tiptoeing. You're sneaking around your place where you pay rent. You're sneaking around to get to the bathroom. And hope they don't come out. Just please don't come out. Please don't come out. Just let's all sleep. I couldn't get out of here fast enough. But it was the first place we lived, and you just kind of make do. And like, I'm here for a mission. And what's funny is you see people that you came with back in that years ago, and that they're not doing it no more, and they stop. And it's each his own. I love it too much. I love it too much. I never know what's next, and I expect tremendous things. When you put things out there, just expect something's gonna. God, the supreme somebody, the acting gods, whatever you want to say, the lottery gods, or you just kind of just do it, and people, things open up. Sometimes you get favor. I call it God's favor. He give you favor in people's hearts that don't even know you, don't know why they're helping you, don't care. Just say, let's choose him, or choose her, let's choose that guy. So it amazes me, like you said, with people that do it, that don't have any spiritual belief, and even atheists. They believe, like you say, they believe in something. I believe that I don't believe. There's no God, but I just think they believe something. It's to this universe. Okay, all these planets, and then just the Earth is it? Really?
Right.
Yeah. Come on, man. I can't roll with that. We're no. That's what we like. No. There's too many. There's just too much out there. And there's too many. I think about all the souls that have been on Earth. You think that they're not somewhere? Come on. I cannot fathom they're not somewhere.
No, I can't fathom it either. I actually had the pleasure of talking to somebody on the show, or one of the other shows that we do here, and he was actually said that he had gone through one of those near-death experiences, and I actually liked his answer, which is he said that when he went up there, he saw like several houses, so it was almost like everybody had their own individual house. So there might have been a house for like the Muslim, a house for the Christian. So because I'm with you, I'm not one that believes that it's my way or the highway type of attitude. So he said when he went up there, he saw there was like almost like different neighborhoods, but it was different neighborhoods based on what was going on. So that was real interesting that he said that he had that experience, and that's what was going on with what he saw.
Yeah, I like that. And I think, like Seth said, you know what? I often think that God is like either both or a woman, because my belief, he's just too complex to be just a man. I think he has too many emotions, too married, too caring, too nurturing like my mother was, too disciplinary like my mother was, but all these things, these aspects, these things. I think he's more just maybe no sex, because I'm like, we trying to put him in a box or put her or her in a box. And no, I'm a spirit. You can't put me in a box, and you can't understand me because not with our brains. So
Right.
Anyway, I think I like that too, though. I like that everybody's represented. Nobody's wrong, because I just think
Yeah.
you believe in it and you're a good person. I just don't. You don't have to just be Christian. I think God is a loving, and He just, if you trying to be right, why not? Right? Can I let you? I'm gonna let you in heaven. Come on in heaven. What I'm gonna do? Get out of heaven because you're this and that, did almost this. No. Anyway, that's just me.
No, I agree with you on that.
I believe.
Seth,
Nice to
Seth,
talk to you.
yep,
Go.
yep. Seth, tell us about that artwork. Because, like I said, I was also impressed with that artwork and how you got involved in the artwork. Because it is definitely a beautiful painting.
It is.
Thank you. Yeah, I actually, it's what I went to college for.
Wow.
And my grandmother was an interior designer, and the art world is all within my family. My mom all at needlework, and so excuse me. So I loved art. Art was always my subject in school, and then I actually went to Marist because at the time, you went to college to make money. It was not what you love, not your, so on and so forth. So I went to Marist for a semester in accounting and thought I was gonna go insane. So failed the course that I absolutely loved and passed the macroeconomics. I'm like, what? I was just like, failed Greek mythology, which I loved the class, and my teacher lived in my town. I'm like, I overstudied, so I mixed the names. And he's like, oh my God, why didn't you tell me? I'm like, you couldn't tell? But so then I went to a community college and got my degree in commercial art, which I'm not graphic, but so I did that. And then we had bought this wine shop. And again, I was bartending and working there. And I didn't know, I never knew what I wanted to do, ever. Ever. Going through school, never knew what I wanted to do. And so I had finally working in the wine shop, and I just, realized like a couple months ago, if I had my brain attached at the time, I would have taken over the wine shop and then bought my aunt and uncle's smoke shop next door, and I would have had this amazing business. But I said, that's it. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to finish my degree in art. Doesn't matter if I make any money at it. I'm just going to go do it. So I go apply at New Paltz and get accepted. And of course, as soon as I get accepted, I get offered a corporate job from one of our wine companies. And I turn it down. I'm like, no, I just made the decision what I'm going to go do. I love to paint and so on and so forth. And I'm driving home like on the third day. And I'm like, and this is the time there was pension, there was all of this stuff. And it's like, wow, because I really don't want to be a teacher. Didn't want to be a teacher.
Right.
And I said, well, I was accepted. If this job doesn't work out, I can always go. So end up with the job 11 years later. I resign, have my daughters, and here I am 15 years later. So, but I have painted, I've sold paintings. And I too, Teddy, have to get back because I haven't done it in a long time. And I just, it is, and it's hard to, if I'm really stressed, because I don't have anything like open that I'm doing, I can't just go down. I can't just go down and do it. I'm constantly doodling though on pieces of paper. You'll see all on the outside of it. But just this week, I was like, I have to get back to this. I have to make the time for it, and I have to do it. Just to fill your soul, right, of something that is creative outside of your work.
Yeah.
Your work's creative, but you need something that actually it settles your brain, it settles down your soul, opposed to the constant movement
Yep.
of working towards your success, right? So
Yeah, you definitely got to have that and everything. There's no doubt about that. Too often we don't get that settling attitude with so busy going into that hectic, frantic kind of lifestyle that's out there and everything. So we definitely got to have that peace of mind. And it sounds like that artwork for both of you is part of the way that you're able to have that meditation period in order to reflect and things of that nature. Because I do agree with something that you said earlier, Seth, that too often we get caught up in the madness of the world and all of that. And sometimes we get too caught up in the madness, even letting the madness get into our Facebook and our social media lives and all of that. Whereas I think that most of us, I think both you and Teddy said this, are of the understanding that we're all human beings and we're all trying to just do the best that we can in life. And we don't need to get caught up in the whole differences around race and culture. If anything, we need to celebrate them. And we also don't need to necessarily get caught up. I get upset when folks are not wanting to be accepting of people for whatever their orientations are, be that the whole LGBTI community and everything. And even if somebody wants to change their orientation, I think that that's their right to do it if they want to and all of that. But definitely, we don't need to be trying to dictate their attitudes. And I know I've got friends that are part of that community, just like I've got friends that are involved in a lot of things, the drug culture, the swinging culture, and a number of other things. But, you know, even if I don't agree with their lifestyle, I'm not going to like try to make a decision based on what is good for them. So I even have a buddy of mine here in Durham that is a practicing, has more than one wife. And like I said, if he can make it work, more power to him. I don't know how he makes it work because, like I said, just dealing with one is hard enough. But if he can make two work, and and one of them is having a kid, so they've got two and a child. He can make it work. More power to him. But I haven't figured out how he does it. But I do have a friend that's involved in that lifestyle, and somehow they're making it work. So I'm sure Seth is going like, I have a hard enough time with the one boyfriend that I had before he passed. I can only imagine trying to put up with two or three at the same time.
Oh God, actually that was easy. But now I from being married and I can't even imagine. I really can't. I can't even imagine. I mean, even right now of because the space I live in now is less than, it's a third of what my house was. So I can't even imagine sharing this space with another adult. Oh my God. I mean, right now my king size bed takes up my bedroom, right? And it's a major adjustment. And it's like my mom was here for Mother's Day and she sleeps in this room, and it's just like, okay, time to go. Too much stuff around.
No, I think that
Excuse me, but I can't even imagine having it's difficult enough to raise a child with one other person. I can't imagine more than one other person and different thought processes and wonder how long it will last.
Right.
You know?
No, I definitely could agree with you on that. I've actually got some friends that are part of that whole dating situation. Like I said, I'm almost about to be 60. Well, I will be 60 next year and everything. And I've had some folks that have talked about that whole dating space and have talked about even like moving in or getting the house together. And I'm kind of like of the attitude that as I've got older, I'm like, no, I like my space. Now, if you want to come and get your space, that's fine and dandy, but I like my space and you have your space and we'll meet in between or we'll meet at each other's space and all of that. But I kind of have adopted the attitude of my dad and his lady love is actually celebrating her 76 on the 14th. So in 2 days, she'll be celebrating her 76 and dad's in his early 80s. But I can tell you, dad has his house, Linda has her house, and they get together when they feel like getting together for social events or at each other's houses. But they are very clear that they have their individual houses as well. And it sounds like that's the kind of attitude that you are looking for as well, Seth.
It works. I mean, it did. I mean, Bill was, he was from my hometown, and it just every other weekend it would just work. I would go there. I didn't have to do anything. It wasn't a thought process, and it just it was so easy. But having somebody, yeah, I could. Well, I have 2 kids, and and they don't, they've already said no, you're not dating. No, they're like, nope. I get married, they're not invited. Oh, and I'm just like, I thought we were kind of over this. And when you're 6, you can say you can kick them in the shins, but when you're 15, 16, you got to read, because they're not even into boys yet, so they don't even have a concept of. And then my one goes, well, we want you to be happy, Mom. But if you're happy, then the kids are miserable. And if we're happy, then the mom's miserable. I'm just like, oh my God. It just is it's so funny, right? The whole thought processes. And
Well, I mean, that's a thought process that goes on all the time. I remember, like I said, I don't have any, but I remember that when my brother, and he was the more rambunctious of the 2 of us, meaning that he was the one that was probably getting into more trouble and definitely doing more kind of like getting not so much legal trouble, but definitely getting into mischief and all of that. And I remember that my dad told him, "Don't worry, yeah, you will get yours." And Malik was looking at him like, "What do you mean by that?" He's like, "Well, you will get yours. So when you have yours, I will find a way to get revenge." And so they now, like I said, the nephews are about to be 12 and 13. And for the last 12 to 13 years, yes, Julius and Langston have been getting back at my brother for everything that he probably did to my dad, his dad as well. So, like
what
I said,
goes around comes around, right?
Exactly. Exactly. He warned them. He said that he was going to get back at them. And I'm sure that they're having secret meetings every once in a while to find ways to
while they're dreaming, while they're sleeping.
That's funny.
That's funny.
That's funny. I remember my mom used to say that to my sister. She was older, and she used to act. Mothers and girls would get into it. They get 12 or 13. They get it. I saw my cousin do the same thing. My aunt, and they get into it. My mom would look at her and squint her eyes. I can't wait till you have kids. Oh, I can't wait till you have kids. You're gonna see. What do you mean? You'll see. Well, I can't wait. I'm gonna be there. And that the parents be doing. They remember that. That's so funny. It's so true, man. Wow.
Yeah.
Those parents be getting on them.
And how different, though, how different the parenting is, right? I mean,
yeah.
You do what I say, and that is what it is. There's no talking things out. There's no there's the whole teaching process within that situation, right? So you're dealing with situation, and it's exhausting. You're just like, oh my God, could you just do what I told you to do? Just at this moment. But now the whole, well, why? Well, how would you feel if this happened to you, right? The whole, and my mom says this to me a lot. She goes, "You're such a good mom. I wish I was a better mom." And then I'm like, I'm like, no, Mom, you were a great mom. I mean, my children, your grandkids wouldn't be these phenomenal kids.
Yeah.
If you weren't, right? I mean, if we didn't have all of this, I mean, and it just like, you're all part of that. It just,
exactly.
But it's so different than when we were growing up. Right, the spank, I got spanked definitely. My God, my dad's hand was like this big, right? And I don't know
if you remember this. I'm sure Teddy may be able to remember this as well. But I remember a couple of times they would ask you to go get a vine, to go get a switch and everything, to get spanked and everything. And don't come in with the little vines, because all they would do is go back and get the tree. Because like I said, if you came back with the little vine,
it was a long walk, Mark. It was a long walk to that tree. You'd be walking all slow. And then you got to get a branch, and then you got to bring it back, and they got to take the leaves off while they're talking to you, and then you got to put your pants down. Oh my God, it was really here. You like, I mean, it wasn't big enough. Like Mark said, it wasn't big enough. No, I'm sit down. I'll be right back. Or you know what I hated? I hate when you have to wait till your father gets home. Wait till this. Or what we got was when it was bad enough, everybody spanked you. My mother spanked you. She dropped us off my aunt's house. She spanked us. My uncle spanked me. And you think we never did it again? We never did it again. We never thought about doing it again. We never stole any action figures like we did ever again. I never thought about taking anything, and I was thinking it achieved its purpose. I'm not saying we got spanked for everything. And also, I remember 2 spankings. I got spanked for hiding these pork chops in the backyard because I didn't want to eat them. And I was thinking to myself, and my mom was like, I know it's so silly. My mom was like, why didn't you just tell me you didn't want them? Why didn't you tell me you want them? I'm thinking to myself, I would kill somebody today for a pork chop. Wow, not literally, but I'm like, why would I hide some pork chops? What was I thinking? Just
Right.
and she worked so hard, and I was thinking, man, that was so stupid. I felt so bad. You're a single mom, 3 kids, and you just give me the food. Tell me you don't want it, but you don't get that till you get older. You're like, ah, that was so. You apologize. I said, my mom, I'm sorry about when I was little and I did this. She goes, oh, I forgot about that. I'm sorry about this and that. I now I understand what I did. And it was wrong, and I put you through all
Well,
that
the
stress.
reason why you had the pork chop, because if you didn't eat it, you're going to get it for lunch the next day. If you didn't eat it then, you're getting it for dinner the next day. And if you didn't, that thing's lasted all week long.
I know.
Yeah, it's going to totally last all week long. And the other thing is that, there's that, and I agree with you because I had a cousin and he's still around. Actually, he's a retired military officer. But I remember when he was young, mom, as well as other relatives, used to hate cooking for him because he was the finickiest eater of all times, which is, I found ironic, the fact that he went into the military where you really have no choice into what you're eating because they're going to give you that and you just got to eat whatever they give you. But I remember literally there would be like a whole plate full, and by the time he was done picking off the ones that he didn't want, it might have been half of that plate because he's like, nope, don't like greens, don't like this. So he was
Around.
I remember that. I remember we were younger and we used to say this thing that mom stuff was quick, working all day, come home, fix food for 3 kids, and the first thing I would say was, ugh, man, I did that one too many times. I got smacked. I never said that again. I don't care what it was. I don't care if it was liver. I hate liver. I'm like, oh, this looks great, mom. Thank you. You better never. Shoot, I was like, I remember that, and I was thinking that would get on my nerves too. The first thing you say, you worked all day, do all this stuff. Ugh, man. Whoo. There was a time that stopped in the house. Nobody ever said ugh again. Thank you, mom.
But parents just have that way of getting you and everything. Because I remember when I was in college, my folks had a community radio station. I remember mom would be the main one that would come and pick me up. And of course, her and dad were running the radio station and everything. I remember she'd come and pick me up. And then this time, the airport in Raleigh was much smaller. It was the kind that you literally didn't have the tunnels. So you literally were walking to the planes and all of that. But I remember I remember going and she came to pick me up. And as we were driving, she was driving from Raleigh to Warrenton and everything. And she's going, hey, Mark, what are you doing now? And I'm going like, remember, there's no cell phones in like the 70s or 80s, not as much as there are now, and definitely no laptops. So I'm going like, I don't know. It's not like I've called all my friends. I have no idea what I'm doing. She's like, and then she gives you the guilt trip. She's like, go about another half mile. She'd be like, you don't know what you're doing? No, Mom, I have no idea what I'm doing. Let me think about this. I came on the air at 6 o'clock. I stayed on the air till 5 o'clock. I came to pick you up at 6 o'clock. And I'm supposed to be on the air till 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, maybe midnight. I've got a better idea. How about I take your clothes home and I drop you off at the radio station and you then get to be on the air while I get to go home and chill out and all of that. And I'm sitting there going like, okay, it's not like I've talked to my friends. So if that's what you say we're doing, that's what we're doing.
I remember that, man. I remember guys, I remember my mom got off at 3:30. We had all day. She did, and with a note was clean the house up before I get home. It better be clean. Right. We had all day to clean it up. We wait till 2:45. 2:45. We doing stuff, and we thought it looked great, but she knew we would do. It was just what she says, a half butt job. It was just half a job. We run around. I'm like, man, why didn't we just do it in the morning on a Saturday? Just do it in the morning, and we'd have a whole day to do it. I just never understood that we wait till the last minute and just half do it. And
well, we wait till the last minute, and not only did we wait till the last minute, but we also, and I'm sure that you can relate to this, Seth. We also think as kids that folks and our parents don't know what we've done.
Exactly.
Like I said, I mentioned the radio station and everything, and I remember that one time, and I've never asked my mom this, but one of these days, maybe I'll ask her this week. But I remember that we went and they went out of town. I think they had a business meeting or something, which meant that the house was pretty much to me, and I think Malik might have gone with him, my younger brother, or he might have been there with us, but it was to our disposal. So we basically had a house party. You know, the old movie House Party. We had a house party and everything. Yeah. And like I said, I do remember cleaning up the house and getting the house all straight. They have never to this day said anything to me about this, but I bet you if I asked them, they'd be like, oh yeah, We knew about that party. I don't, just like I'm
And
sure that there's things, Seth, that you know that your kids did that they have not told you publicly that they've done, but you just keep that in the back of your mind for a later conversation. Maybe like when they're 30 or 40 or something like that.
Oh yeah, they're yeah. I don't, they are. I'm very fortunate that they're so busy. They don't have any time to do anything. I mean,
good.
they run
Good.
7 days a week. There is like no, which I'm grateful for, but also that they do miss out on kid stuff, right?
Yeah.
But there is. I do have when they were little. Oh my god, because they're twins. They're so fun. I mean, they would do. I have this picture. One is on top of the counter, hands and elbows like this, right? The other one is standing on top of her back.
Dang.
They picked flowers outside for me, and all the little tiny vases were up in the top cabinet. So they had the island chair. They got on the chair. The one is now in rabbit position, and then the other one is standing on top of and oh my god, they
Wow.
it's so hysterical. And when I went in, only so it's not crazy stuff, but when they were little in cribs, I had their cribs like side by side like this, right? And I walked in, and one was in the other crib, and I'm like, how'd you get in there? And one day I caught them, the leg over, everything.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, it's so great to capture those things. But that was my mom she's like, well, I said, me, I never did drugs. I didn't get pregnant. All I did is I would sneak out of my house and go because our shop was right on the same property. And I'd go over before I had my license, and I would take my dad's truck out in the middle of the night and go driving around. And I got caught.
Oh, well.
The police. So small town. They're like, what are you doing? I said, nothing. You have a license? I'm like, no, go home. So that happened twice. They're like, Steph. So the third time, my dad's driving back from a basketball game, and they think it's me. And they pulled my dad over, and that's how I got caught. And he's like, I wondered why there was a sneaker print outside the door of the truck. And I say here to my mom, I'm like, that's all I ever did. I didn't do anything. I never, didn't do anything else. I mean, there were I snuck out all the time, but they didn't know that. But but I didn't do anything, right? I wasn't like getting in trouble. I wasn't doing anything like that. So I don't know what's going to happen to my kids when they go out to college, but they're like, Mom, I'm not drinking. I'm not doing anything. I mean, they're like totally. So we'll see what happens. They're going to be juniors.
Well, hopefully that'll be the case, because I did have a friend of mine that actually they probably had that same attitude, and they were kind of like the I won't say the kept kid, but they were definitely very much the innocent child. And then they went off to college in a small rural town here in North Carolina, and they kind of like went off the deep end there for a minute. So they kind of like had that exploration moment and all of that. So I remember that's when my friend Ann started hanging out with motorcycle gangs and some other people along those lines. So hopefully that won't happen with your kids. Hopefully they'll stay good.
Right? You go, okay, what's going to happen? Unfortunately, I mean, they're aware of a lot of stuff. I mean, they're really aware. One of our runners, this was just actually on Dateline. I don't know if it's posted yet or not, but our coach, one of our runners was abducted right out of the high school parking lot.
Oh, wow.
And our coach had run him down. So they're so aware of what goes on, and, and going to, I don't know. I mean, I'm very fortunate, and I hope, who knows, as they get older and I'm not home as much, or their first time that they spend the weekend in the house by themselves, what will go on with their girlfriends, I'm not quite sure. But we'll see. Who knows?
See how it plays out and everything. Are they identical twins? And then we're going to wrap everything up. But are they identical twins, or are they the twins that are not the total lookalikes that we sometimes run across.
Right, fraternal or identical? They're identical.
Oh wow,
cool.
So do they play those tricks of pretending to be each other with their friends and everything of that nature?
No, well, no, but it's funny because some of their teachers don't realize they have a twin during COVID. Like when they're in school, they get it, but they'll go, "Oh, hey, Sheridan," and McKinley goes, "I'm not Sheridan," and they look at her like, "What the heck?" And that's kind of funny. And so they're a little boring, I think. they're not doing any of that stuff. But they have such a great relationship with all their teachers and everything. But they do. Their coaches, with their one coach, still doesn't know which is which. I'm like, really?
Been coaching for all this time and still can't figure out which is which.
Yes,
it's right to be boring and everything. I was actually going to mention just real quickly, and then I've got a question that I asked pretty much all the guests before we wrap and everything. But I was going to say that I remember that in terms of punishment, in terms of like, and it comes back to something that Teddy said, in terms of like having that punishment. Yes, the switch was one thing, but I also remember that my grandmother had, and I think that it may still exist in our family house, because one of those houses, actually a couple of the houses still exist and everything, but they had the doghouse, and literally each doghouse had the little dogs with each of our names, meaning all the cousins' names. And if you were bad, you would go in the doghouse. So it was like a little doghouse thing that was sitting there right next to the phone. So everybody knew who had been bad if your little dog was in there. Every dog would have the
That
name.
is funny.
Everything. It was like a little psychological battle going on. So like I said, Grandma would be like, "All right, so Mark acted bad today. Put the bark dog in the doghouse and everything."
That's funny.
That's cool. That's nice.
So one of the things I do, and I appreciate both of y'all. Y'all have been some amazing guests. Definitely appreciate you being on, and hopefully can get you back on in the near future and everything. But I always ask the people their social media. That's the basic one and everything. But then the question that I try to ask everybody, and alluded to it a lot during the conversation, is this is an international platform, Pod TV, formerly International Broadcast Media and everything. And one of the things that they try to hype is the fact that we are a global community and spreading positivity. So any words of positivity or anything along those lines that you would like to share, we would love to hear those and everything. And that actually just reminded me of one other quick thing that I was going to share before I hear from the both of y'all. My friend Brian Showman does this great thing on LinkedIn where he adds these positive days. He does Positivity Wednesday, I think, Shout Out Saturday, and What's Up Wednesdays. And they were actually celebrating his birthday today. And I remember that Raquel Boris, who's there in Virginia, was one of the people calling, celebrating his birthday, which is actually tomorrow on Thursday. And she was calling while she was trying to get gas, because, we got this whole gas shortage going on. And one of the things he does is he always gets people to dance and just enjoy that movement and everything while shouting out positivity. Raquel was doing that at the gas station. And even she, after she was done, she was like, "Yeah, these people are looking at me like I'm crazy because I'm sitting here in this long line and I'm over here getting my dance groove on." And she was there in the line, and I can only picture her somewhere in Virginia. I think it's not that far from Alexandria, and sitting there grooving and dancing. You could see her on the video dancing, and I could probably picture people, even though you didn't see them in the video behind, going like, "All right, who is that crazy woman inviting?"
That's cool.
Oh, that's fun. Well, with TikTok and all and IGTV and all of that stuff, people are probably like, "Yeah, whatever" anymore. They're like, everybody's doing something, right?
That's very true. But yes, I'll start with you, Seth. If you can tell folks how they can get that great ebook that I've alluded to a couple of times, as well as any word of positivity or encouragement that you would like to share with the audience, and then I'll go to Teddy after that.
Great, thank you. So you can find my ebook at www.seth. My name's right there on the bottom, but it's SETH-McGuire, MCGUIRE.com. It's right there. And I'll be getting I'll get this posted up on there too. So if anybody wants all of that, it's under progress. And positively, please mind your mind and keep positive surroundings. People whether you need to get off TV, you have to get off your social media, just block out all the noise and know if you stay the course, it will all work out. Just have the faith.
Yeah, great idea, great message. Teddy, what is your thoughts, your message of positivity, the words of encouragement that you would like to give people and folks, that ways that they can find you, and if there are any other roles that you've got coming up that you can let us know about? And I do know about
Oh,
VAs and everything, so I do know about those
well,
things that you cannot discuss yet.
well, positive, I would say. This was Seth was saying. They had asked a couple of guys, rich guys, separately, and they both. What was some one thing they can tell people? One word they can tell people about success, and it's what we were saying: focus. They both said focus. Didn't talk to each other. Focus. Stay focused on your goals. Another thing is help somebody. Help 2 or 3 people a day. Help 2 or 3 people a day, whether they're this or that, and it feels so good to help people. I mean, to reach back and not reach here, just help them. And even little things like buying a cup of coffee for somebody, helping them if they're too busy to, I don't know. And I get a lot, I listen to a lot of Joel Osteen, and he just help people. That's what on this earth to do. If we all did that just a little bit, one person a day, 2 or 3 people a day, somehow, some way, reach out and help them. I don't know, even with some change or buying a cup of coffee or helping your friend, give them a ride somewhere. My car's in the shop, help them, just helping people. That's what I think. And then I have Instagram, Teddy Lane Jr. 777, and it's lane like right lane, left lane. And there's a project, I can't say the name, but it's with Will Ferrell. What's his name? Paul Judd and Catherine Hahn. It's such a blessing. They're goofy, funny. It's gonna be funny. It's gonna be funny. But thank you, and I learned so much from Seth, and I learned so much from Mark. Both of you guys. I'm like,
oh, you as well. Thank
coming
you.
together with like minds. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
It is.
Being better.
Totally glad to have both of y'all on. Glad to have y'all share your wisdom and everything. I'm going to bring on a show, an ad or spot for a show that we air on Thursdays called The Gamers Den, which is about the video game industry. I think that the spot says that it airs at 1, but we've actually moved it to 12. And then right after that, I'll get this airplane that is kind of our theme to get on out of here and all of that. But right now, here's some information about The Gamers Den. And like I said, if you see the sign and it says 1, know that it's actually at noon. And that's noon tomorrow.